to all of this staff information. That's all for the justice.
As a voting member in place of Neil Mascola for the residential treatment center. AJ, did you have an opportunity to verify that they're looking at the tapes and the video?
Yes.
All right. First hearing 6:05. Yeah, let's do the minutes. I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes of the May 14th, 2024 zoning commission meeting. For a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Neil will abstain.
Neil abstained. I didn't know. Okay. Anything? So our public hearing at 6:05, the applicant for the proposed text change to add a residential treatment facility as a permitted use to a B1 zone, add a definition of residential treatment facility and adding parking ticketing for residential treatment facilities. Applicant Clarity's Downtown LLC.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Nuff, an attorney with office at 135 Broad Street. Here on behalf of the applicant, Clarity's Downtown LLC. We were with you last month, and everyone who's with us last month is with us here tonight. Unfortunately, Cheyenne Riker, counsel for Haven, our tenant, was available to join us in person. Peter Rockholz, who testified last time, is also here in person. My clients, the owners of the property, are also here in the room. I think kept the hearing open for a number of reasons, but including the need to obtain reports from your various other commissions and committees within the Borough of Naugatuck. And Ed has done a nice job giving you a summary of that, but I'll just want to run through it very quickly. Police Commission last night voted to approve unanimously the applications. I would note that the chief was, frankly, was very supportive, and I want to be very specific in what he said. I want to, misquote him, but he had indicated that he had no objection, and that he knew a number of people who've been helped by such facilities, and that oftentimes came out better than they were before. So we were very appreciative of the police commission's attention last night, as well as their vote and the chief's comments. As Ed notes, the fire commission review was approved in May. Tax collector and all taxes current, engineering not required, wetlands administratively approved. We received WPCA approval on June 13th. And the planning commission, they voted to give a negative referral on the regulation amendments, and they chose not to vote on the special permit application. Now, under your regulations, a failure to vote is deemed to be an approval by the planning commission. I guess is, so you can take that for what it's worth, but that's what your regulations say. So that's where we are in terms of the various reports that are required by your special permit criteria. You received, I have handed out two things to you this evening. One is a memo that is actually addressed to the planning commission, which responds to what I told the planning commission was a very helpful and direct and thorough memo prepared by your attorney, Brian McCann, who decided to be here with us this evening. So I want to provide you a copy of that. I know that based upon my discussions with Lori, that the materials that we supplied to the planning commission and the materials that we supplied to this commission, at the end of the day, will all be combined into one overall record. But I don't know how much cross-pollination is going on while the hearing is open. So I felt that this was an important memo. I didn't know whether Attorney McCann was going to be supplying you with his memo. So I want to make sure that you have the benefit of our response to that memo. And again, there's really nothing in Attorney McCann's memo with which we disagree. I thought he provided very good guidance to the planning commission and want to give that commission and you our thoughts on the topics that we raised. The other item that I handed out to you is a response to a letter that you received from Attorney McVeary at last month's meeting on behalf of a number of downtown property owners and businesses. I mean, candidly, I'd like to think that had his clients really known more about our application, they either would not have signed on or maybe would have supported us, and for reasons I'll explain. Because at the end of the day, what we're proposing is entirely consistent with your POCD. I don't think your POCD is frankly relevant under the Fair Housing Act, and I'll explain that. But the important thing is your POCD talks about creating vitality in the downtown area. Well, you can do that a number of ways. You can certainly do that by new residential units, but the POCD also talks about bringing business to downtown Naugatuck. Well, this is indeed a business, just like Trinity Health is a business. It's going to be staffed by upwards of 60 people, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our largest shift will probably be about 25 people. And these are all folks who are going to be coming to the borough every day or have the ability to frequent all the shops and restaurants and other things in downtown Naugatuck. So from our perspective, is entirely consistent with POCD. And if I were Attorney McVeary's clients, particularly, a lot of the restaurants who had signed on, I would be welcoming us with open arms, knowing that there was 60 people who are now potential new customers coming to this area every day. But I want to go through Attorney McVeary's letter and we'll be more specific. We made mention with regard to the applicability of the regulation amendment to parcels within the zone. This is our parcel at 58 Maple is the only parcel that complies with our proposed standard in terms of size of the acreage and proximity to an industrial zone. So he had talked about extending down Rubber Avenue. That's not the case. This is the only parcel where this would be located. He thought that the special permit application is premature because the text amendment application is not approved. I described to you last time where this happens all the time throughout Connecticut, and I guess it's beyond Connecticut, where an applicant will provide both a text amendment or a zone change or both simultaneously with the special permit application. And oftentimes, in fact, the vast majority of cases, the commission can approve or will approve all those applications simultaneously. There's never been a challenge that I'm aware of. Attorney McVeary doesn't cite any cases where that is improper, but nonetheless, I know that there are some towns that prefer to wait to vote on the special permit application until the effective date of the new regulation has taken effect. Obviously, we have no objection to that. I don't know what your custom and practice is here in Naugatuck, but that is the other alternative to voting on both at the same night. You just wait for the effective period to come and go against it. So, and I know it's not an issue to just get plenty of time on that. He talks about applying the two-pronged test under the Fair Housing Act, and that the text amendment would alter the county scheme of the district and set forth as it should be. So what he's referring to is the two-part test. So when you have a zoning application under the Fair Housing Act, one of the things that the course will do is we'll look at one, does it upset or is it inconsistent with the fundamental scheme of zoning and doesn't impose an undue financial administrative burden on that time. So that comes up in the context of the Fair Housing Act. His argument relies exclusively on the POCD. What's most relevant here is not your POCD, but your existing regulations. So when you are considering the question of, is this a fundamental change from the zoning scheme for this district? Ask yourself, so what else do we allow in this district? And the answer is, you allow hospitals, convalescent homes, nursing homes, medical offices, sanitarium, and multifamily residential. As I say in the memo, you'd be hard pressed to find another use that is more consistent with the other permitted uses in the zone than our proposed use. So in no way is this inconsistent with, or is in no way is it fundamentally altered the zoning scheme. It's not a question of whether it's consistent, it's whether it is foundational in nature, and it's not. It is entirely consistent with your zoning scheme as set forth in your regulations by your permitted uses. I also talk again, I'm not preempting this, that even if you want to consider P O C D, this is consistent with your P O C D. It's going to be creating jobs. It will create vibrancy in the downtown area. As I said, there will be 60 employees downtown every day of the year who have the opportunity to frequent, frankly, some of the people who sign on to it, including our delis, the coffee shop, Players Den, Maple Street Bakery, all these folks with good jobs, doctors, nurses, staff people are going to have the ability to create that vibrancy. If you think about vibrancy, I'm not sure where you want to, picture in your mind, but it requires two things. It requires residents, and I think the borough is doing a good job of doing that. It also requires businesses, because during the day, the residents leave to go to work. So you want some other vitality there, which is the people who are going to be working in that area, and this provides that opportunity. And then the other thing, the second part of the FHA test is whether the proposed accommodation proposes undue financial or administrative burdens on the community. So if you read the case law, it's like, well, somebody said, well, maybe there's going to be more ambulances, or maybe there's going to be, and this is the whole breadth of disabilities. It could be more ambulances, could be fighting fires. None of that is relevant here. There are no undue burdens. There's no burden on the Borough of Naugatuck of any kind, administrative or financial. The only financial impact to Borough of Naugatuck is likely positive, because you're taking vacant 16,000 square feet in an existing building, and now you're providing a tenant in that space, thereby supporting the valuation that the borough gives to that property. He also talked, the last thing Attorney McBeary mentions is a denial of the applications would not be evidence of the borough's engaging in discriminatory practices because of Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-3E. So it's really getting to the reasonable accommodation. So just taking a step back, there are three ways that an applicant can bring a claim against the municipality under the Fair Housing Act. One is intentional discrimination. Two is disparate impact. That facially it looks fine, but there is a disparate impact on that facility. And three is a failure to make reasonable accommodation. So he was only really addressing the accommodations. And that's all I'll focus on as well. The problem is that the borough hasn't made an accommodation under the statute. First of all, the borough didn't drop that statute, the state of Connecticut did. It is for a far different type of use than what we're proposing. It refers specifically to a single family home being used for 6 or fewer patients. That's not us. And merely, even if the borough had approved a facility under that statute, which it has not, our application would still be subject to fair housing. So, frankly, I don't think Attorney McBeary's claims hold any water, and I would like to give his client the benefit of the doubt that had they known more about our application, they frankly would have been supportive and not have objected. And then I think the last thing before we get to questions, I just want to quickly go through the memo that I gave to the tenants. So, as I just said, you are looking at our application. So, see, it's a Fair Housing Act, and the other is you just look at Fair Housing Act completely aside, and you're looking at solely under Connecticut law. What you're doing on the regulation amendment application is you are looking for consistency with the comprehensive plan. You can consider, that's what the statute says, quote, consider the PhD, and I talked about that. But it also has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan as found in your zoning map and your zoning regulations. And I just discussed how we are consistent. Our proposed use is consistent with the other uses in that zone. But the other thing, and Attorney McCann's memo folks this out is, at the end of the day, what courts will do when looking at whether something is in the whether it's consistent comprehensive plan, is ask themselves this question. Is it in the best interest of the community? And so what my memo talks about is, even if you take the word community and define that as narrowly as you possibly can, and limit yourself to the borough of Naugatuck. Well, I don't think there's any question that it's highly likely that there will be residents of the borough of Naugatuck who will be patients of this facility. But let's assume none. Because of the specific nature, the unusual nature of this disease, the misuse of alcohol and drugs, this is a malady that doesn't limit itself to that person who's affected. This is a harm that radiates out from that person and affects their families, their loved ones, their coworkers, their employers, and there's no question that there are family members and businesses who are going to be harmed or have been harmed by people they know who have misused drugs or alcohol. This provides an opportunity for them to seek treatment. I've described to you why I think this is in the best interest of the community from simply a financial and vitality perspective. You're bringing community, you're bringing staff members into the downtown village. And I guess my last point is, given the unusual nature of this disease and its effect on people, I would like to think that there's a better way of using the word community, that we wouldn't be so narrow in our description of that we're only looking at the impact on the borough of Naugatuck. I think it's why the Connecticut or the Naugatuck River Valley Health memo that we handed out to you early on was based upon the entire Naugatuck River Valley. I mean, that is your community as well. You know, Peter spoke eloquently last time about how there is a tremendous lack of these types of facilities in the Naugatuck River Valley and corresponds almost identically with where there is the greatest need. And I would suggest that that is your community as well, that we all owe an obligation to each other to make sure that I contribute to the community. I think that from whatever perspective from which you want to view this, whether it's adding vitality to the downtown area, whether it is consistency with your top plan, whether it is consistency with the fundamental nature of the zone and other bond uses, all of those things point to approval of the regulation. As to the special exception application, you have specific criteria in your regulations that I touched on. Most of those are irrelevant because the building has already been constructed. I'd be happy to go through them, but I mean, this is, in many cases where you have an existing building and you've got one tenant leaving, in that case, a vacant space, and another tenant moving in, is simply a zoning thing. If you have a women's clothing store and a shoe store wants to move in, they're not going back to the planning and zoning commission for a new special permit. It's a use is permitted and you simply move in. So the same way, we have an existing building, 58 Maple, and this is simply a tenant that wants to move in the space. So a lot of those special permit criteria simply don't apply because the building's already been constructed. We're all here this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Cheyenne and Peter would be happy to answer questions as well. I'm not sure if there's anything that's has gone unanswered, or if we can give you further assurance on anything, but we're happy to engage in dialogue.
Commissioners? Any questions? Yeah, no, sir.
Can you remind me what year that?
In 2017. Was that 2016, 17.
AJ?
No.
When was this vote given to planning? Was it before the meeting, after the meeting?
Before the meeting.
that part of the record? This record?
Yeah, not this record. That was given at, given to planning at the meeting, that night at the meeting, correct? It was dated June 3rd. That was the date of our meeting. Public.
Um. John, the chairman, would like to, I understand that we've had a lot of overlap today. Regarding the special permit and the text amendment, and I think that's perfectly appropriate. Okay, I told you in the past, I wouldn't want the applicant or the stakeholders, public, or anyone to have to come up and repeat their comments for some rigid requirement of separating the applications. However, I think we're at a point where the commission is prepared to vote on the text amendment. And I think that it also desires a little more time to decide on the special permit. Is the applicant willing to grant an extension to next meeting for the special permit? Probably, and so, and I'm equivocating, and I understand. Because I guess my first question, I'm going to answer your question with a question. Is there something specific that you want us to look? I mean, so if you're saying that you really want more time, then I think, yeah, we're certainly inclined to do that, but I don't know if there's anything you can sort of, answer tonight that could.
I don't want to speak for the chairman, but I think a lot of it stems from the very distinct deliberations and findings. I think it also has to do with the fact that, as you've heard from the planning commission, regardless of what you think about that deliberation and results, I think that it points a strong finger at that the commission needs a standard and to absorb a standard in order to have a deliberation where it not only applies that standard, which would theoretically be in place at a subsequent meeting, but also to consider how the actual application may or may not impact the special permit criteria, public health, safety, welfare, traffic, whatever, property values. With that, knowing that there's a standard in
So,
place.
how about this one? That's irrelevant until we get to the question of whether the regulation is to approve. So maybe you can close the hearing on the reg amendments. And you can vote, and then while you're doing that, I think the board like honestly will figure, and we'll find out whether there's a reason to send a special permit application, and that can be. Does that work?
That's fair enough.
To give a reason. There's a lot of information to ingest. We have public that's going to come forward to speak again. And it gives us the time to look through everything, the two things that we just got today. And anything else that comes forward.
No, I understand. I'm really trying not to. So if what I just suggested is amenable, or the commission's amenable to that idea, maybe go on that track and then think that just.
it's entirely your client's discretion, so
No, no.
there's nothing that the commission can do to make you make that
Oh,
decision
no,
now.
no, I realize,
So we'll-
I just need to talk to them.
I'm agreeing with you, John.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he was just about to open up. Yeah.
Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public want to make a comment?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Carlos Santos, and I reside at 165 Falcon Crest Road in Middleburg. Now, I do not reside here. However, extremely most of my time is spent here, my family's here, my closest friends are here. My businesses are here, my properties are here. I currently volunteer on the Naugatuck Development Corporation as the vice chairman. I'm also the vice chairman of the Naugatuck Valley Regional Development Corporation. I've volunteered years.
Like 30 seconds, I'm gonna be a little. Are you one of the parties identified for the years today? I don't know whether these comments are included in Attorney Pierce's discussion. It's typical that if a party is represented by counsel, that they don't speak for themselves. I mean, I'll leave that to the chair's discretion with consulting with the attorney if you can, but it's customary as far as in my many years of experience that a individual does not speak if their attorney is spoken.
I'm glad to waive my right to help you. That's what you did. I will back to this meeting. As I was saying, I volunteered numerous boards in this town, including the finance board, and then the chamber of commerce. I invested. So the fellow council's comments, attorney Gary could not be here, otherwise I wouldn't be there. This is literally the first time that we've been here. You are opposed or promoted. I think this is that. With regard to Attorney McBary, who reminded the board of supervisor and very lengthy list of builders and business owners, all who resolute in the opposition to this. I will go through the list again because I think it's that important. All downtown property owners and business. And again, regardless of the applicant's comments, they remain resolute. I'll get into it. Attorney McBary has been retained by myself. DNF Realty, owners of 203 Church Street and 173 Church Street. D&G Reopen Ventures LLC, owners of 41 Ventures. Maple Street Properties LLC, owners of 83 Ventures. DMAR Properties LLC, owners of 87 Ventures. Naugatuck Train Station LLC, owners of 195 Water Street, 218 Water Street, and 224 Water Street. Richard Smith, owners of 100 Water Street. 23 Cedar Street LLC, owners of 23 Cedar Street. 285 Church Street LLC, owner of 285 Church. Together with local business owners all in the downtown area, my firm, partners, Diversified Financial Services, owner Travis Patrick and Jim Walker, the law offices of Portland, Naugatuck, the Station Roasters, Gateway Financial Partners, owner Dave Rollins, Muni Insurance, owner Francis Batista, International Chambers, Delaware, the Water Street Pub, the Water Street Barber Shop, owner Anthony Gillo, Nardello's Binder Shop, owner Martin River, Connecticut Sign and Post LLC, owner Thomas King, Players, owner Robert Edwards. I also remind you that the NEDC provided this commission with a unanimous resolution indicating their opposition to this application. Now, as you may know, that board has been working on downtown development We have put in not hundreds, but thousands of volunteers to secure a. And I have had personal discussions with most, if not all of them. And we all feel the same way. We feel that this type of service is necessary. Is necessary. Just not in the heart of the county. We all agree, to the individual, that to place this type of service in the heart of our county would be detrimental. It's going to be detrimental for the long time. It could very well be the first nail in the coffin for our downtown. A detox facility offering short-term treatment simply is not consistent with our plan to provide a vibrant downtown where people live, where people walk, where people dine, where people gather because of company, in an inviting environment. This type of service is not only not consistent with it, but it's going to deter other businesses. It's going to deter other residents from coming in. It's just simply not consistent with our plan. And I understand that these situations always cause a concern for litigation, and the threat of litigation. We can't let that continue. This is a legislative body. You have full discretion to decide whether or not this use is consistent with community development. You have full discretion to decide whether or not this use is in the best interest of our community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hold on a second.
Can I ask a question, please? You mentioned that you've spoken with almost all of the zoners. Can you explain it?
Owners of property.
Owners,
Some property
oh.
owners.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm Chester Cornacchio, 53 Grand Ridge Road in Naugatuck. Wanted to just give a little more background on Carlos's discussion. I too am a member of the Economic Development Corporation Board. Another lifetime ago, about 25 years ago, I was appointed to the Economic Development Commission. Back then, we did not have a board. We had, again, volunteer citizens that were all looking to make a positive impact on our community. We knew not quite much about what economic development was all about, but we were tasked specifically with the industrial parks at the time. We knew where we wanted to go in the community, and we knew we had resources available to us. One of them was joining the Council of Governments of the Naugatuck Valley, which offers regional resources for communities like ours, so that we can figure out a way to plan for the future. One of the consistent refrains we got was, Naugatuck never plans for the future. What do we want to be? Who do we want to be? What are we targeting? What type of community do we envision ourselves 10 and 20 years down the road? So we created these documents on the Plan of Conservation and Development, which was just recently updated. They're really meant as guides. And good counsel tonight has mentioned it a few times and said, well, it's really not about the Plan of Conservation and Development, but we meet it by offering 60 jobs. 60 jobs is not what this document is about. This document is about creating harmony in the community, making sure you've got balance in the community, making sure that our community meets the ideals that are consistent with the regional council of governments and their plan of conservation and development. And all of that's got to work in concert. The Riverfront Walk, for example, that's connected with the other communities. There are things that we're doing that affect the other communities in the Naugatuck Valley, and we're a member on that board. We sit on our mayor sits on that board, and like I said, I've been through Democratic and Republican administrations from Joan Tapp on forward, and our board is a bipartisan board. We're citizen volunteers, and we're here for the community. We've had experts tell us what we need to do downtown. And the big thing is live, work, play, transit-oriented development. There's nothing here that adds to that. And whether or not this type of facility is needed is not what we're here to discuss. More than likely it is. The location, though, could very well derail 25 years worth of work that we've put in planning and getting all of our planets aligned for the downtown. It's not just wake up and put businesses in and reduce the tax base. This is about creating a community that is cohesive. And the downtown area was one of the most highly regarded areas in all of our plans of development. Through every administration we've had, all of the experts that have come in that we paid for with these documents and creating these plans, and our surveys that went to the residents and so on, all pointed to transit-oriented development. We have a train station, which is we're getting a new train station, and we've got an artery there for creating this type of a needed development, live, work, play, residential with commercial development interspersed in that. Across the street, we have Penrose project, which is taking shape day by day here, which calls for a plan of injecting people into the downtown so that we can get the jobs created and the restaurants, as good counsel has mentioned, they can be feeding people and the bars can be entertaining people, et cetera, et cetera. All of that stuff will happen with people downtown. This type of facility can easily derail that. And contrary to, again, we're talking about a detox facility. This is a real estate transaction. At the planning commission, one of the commissioners brought this up. Plain and simple, there's no reason why that has to go there. That could easily go in any other facility, any other building that has that kind of square footage available to it. If anything, this particular facility and the proposal they have, I think it has a caged area in the back for the residents to go outside. That's not conducive to whatever it is that they are providing. And again, I'm not here to judge that. I'm just saying that we've worked hard to make sure that the downtown is planned properly. And it's not our opinion. Experts have come in from London. We had people coming in with Renaissance Place. We had people coming in from Westport, from every community. We had West Hartford people come in to tell us, again, you want vibrancy in the streets, you want people walking the streets, you want people living downtown and people engaged in the community, 18 to 35-year-olds. Now they're going to be the ones that are going to inject that vibrancy. And then when they want to raise a family, they'll move out to the country where I live or somebody else. But again, we're all volunteers. And what Carlos was bringing up, these are business people who have invested their lives downtown. And that's a risk. And he's spot on that. And they're unified because this is something that is completely contrary to this document, which we paid for, which we hired people to tell us what is best for the community. I'm not going to go through it, but you can read it. Live, work, hey, we want to create a destination location. We want to be known for something. You know, so we got to, you know, this is a brave choice. I'm a commissioner like you are, and we have a choice to make here. And the choice is, don't be afraid of litigation because it's our community. And at the end of the day, if we want to create a destination, we got to choose that destination and that plan and follow what the community told us they want in this document. That's very important. And again, good counsel has mentioned it a few times and said we're creating 60 jobs. 60 jobs is not enough. It's not going to reformulate downtown. It's not going to reinject vibrancy downtown. It's certainly not going to alter the landscape downtown. It may be the final nail in the coffin, as Carlos said, which could end up derailing our project, which is underway across the street. That's one of 3 phases breaking ground this year. You know, we've had thousands of hours of this over the last 25 years. And it's been a very, very, very positive experience. Don't be afraid to say no here. And don't let people push you around. This is pretty clear as day what we need to do here. Thank you.
Do you have any research or information to discuss what you're saying about anything downtown, a facility like this downtown would derail a downtown? I'm hearing it, but I'm just wondering where all the information and research is.
So the plan of conservation and development talks, and the regional plan of conservation talks about creating vibrancy and creating destination themes for your downtown. So with this type of a structure, this type of facility, offering whatever services they are, and it could be, it doesn't have to be a treatment facility, it could be something else that's inconsistent with the development plan for downtown. So it's the impetus that will ultimately spark, could create a problem that would start a spiral for us. And again, we already have been very, very cautious in how we've been dealing with things. We could have easily put in strip malls downtown. If the property owners, we have to fight to get brick on that thing. With all due respect, and again, we agreed to that. And we were shown one thing and what ended up getting proposed was something different. And we had architects come in and all said, you've got an 11 city beautiful architectural buildings still standing in our community. We have a downtown green. And these structures designed by some of the best architects of their day, industrialists, commissions, these buildings, they're all downtown. And they said, make sure whatever you do in these gateway pieces of the downtown historic zone, which we labeled an historic area worthy of preservation. So all of this is inconsistent with that. And that could be anything else. It doesn't have to be a regional treatment center. It could be anything that is inconsistent with those plans. It could be, an asphalt plant, or it could be something else that will end up causing lack of a destination outline and the core of what we're trying to establish, which is live, work, play, transportation-oriented development, which is linked to that train station. And a lot of the development we're seeing across the street, again, is linked to the train station. Those are that they see that as part of the key to the re-emerging vibrancy of the downtown. So hard data. Probably the answer is probably no. Expert opinions, tons of them. And again, with all due respect, the applicant's coming forward with, a treatment facility that may or may not be something that the area needs. We don't know. I don't know what kind of data they've provided or are provided or are willing to provide that shows that they're meeting a need that, say, Waterbury Hospital, St. Mary's doesn't meet on the front lines. I don't know. This is all speculative. What is not speculative is this document, which we've paid for, which we worked on, which we queried our own residents with. This is a second generation document we have, which is consistent with the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, which we are a sitting member of, tells us otherwise. It tells us to be very, very careful about what you do with these particular areas that need to be developed in concert and in coordination with other departments. So this flies in the face of that.
I have a question. How old is that document and is it a living document where it's updated regularly?
It is. This is 2023. It's just recently. This is actually the draft, which I think was finalized 6 months ago. But when I started economic development under Joan Taft, when I was appointed, we weren't even part of the COG at that point. The Council of Governments in Naugatuck Valley. So this particular plan of development is in its the third iteration. And it's a living document. It's updated all the time. And again, it's designed really as a guiding document for planning and zoning. And the idea is, let's not decide what we want to do on a development by development basis. Let's try to put together a plan. And I encourage you all to read it. It's online. It's on our website. Surveys went out to many people and we took that feedback. They took the feedback from Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, tied it all together, and we got a beautiful document. And this flies in the face of that.
When you say many people, was it like a targeted population? Was it a random sampling? I'm just curious.
It was a random sampling, and then there was also, I think, on the website for a while. Maybe Jim can answer this. Was there on the website some kind of a survey that people could fill out online? It was for a long period of time. When they did the final, I think when it was the final drafts, and people asked for comments as well. There were public hearings and meetings. And again, it's consistent with the Naugatuck Valley Council
The survey was done in conjunction with our affordable housing plan,
as well. Yes.
and we took that as part of our POCD. It was done by the Planning Commission and in-house. We did not hire out to do it this year. We did it ourselves. It's done every 10 years. So it was just done and effective January 1st, 2024. Or December 31st. I
Well,
forget
one of
which
the
day.
things that never happened in the past was that economic development was really never linked to all of this. And again, 1999, my thought was we need to bring more businesses in town and reduce the tax base. It's not like that. Everything has to coordinate and everything has to be cohesive with the long-term goals of the community. And it's not just, if everybody thought that way, we'd have businesses all over the place. We'd have Boston Post Road, you know, and again, that's not progress. That's urban sprawl. And we've been working to avoid that. And so our model has been always pedestrian based, downtown oriented. And that's where the Renaissance Place project was proposed. That's where the Penrose thing is breaking ground this year. On the same concept, with retail, with housing above it, targeting 18 to 35-year-olds with transportation oriented needs. That's why we're getting a new train station.
Hey, do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to say that the text change, one of our requirements is to send the text change request and any changes to our regulations to the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, which we did do. And we've been provided this before, where their recommendation back was staff finds proposed text amendments not to be regionally significant, will not result in intermunicipal impacts. So that's directly from them. My other question is that when this building was initially built, was it not at that initial time looked at to be fully a medical building? Are you telling us that in the future, Penrose can't have a doctor's office or any type of medical use in it? Or we're just saying no medical use downtown Naugatuck now?
No,
That has to be living, it has to be a shop, it has to be vibrant, and that people can go to a bar, but they can't go to get treatment if they have an issue from going to bars? Is that what you're telling us?
No, and I think let me address the Council of Governments first. Intermunicipal impacts, if we were putting up, say, a power plant, that would apply. And they checked off the box and said, no, there's nothing that's going to happen in Naugatuck that's going to affect Beacon Falls or in Sonia or whatever. So again, that's a boilerplate approval of saying there's nothing that's going to impact other communities by putting this here.
But it was their time to respond to it. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
I get it, but again, we weren't proposing something that would fall into that. But this proposal doesn't fall into anything that is intermunicipally effective. You know, and as far as the building had many different proposals when it was being proposed. It was different. It was 3 floors at one point. You know, so it went down to 1 floor, then it went back up to 2 floors. There were many pushes and pulls with the property. The property value got reduced. There were different things that were done that made that particular building take place. And again, that was years ago. Whether or not what happens in the future, if there's, you know, again, our job right now is to make sure that we have a development happening across the street now in 3 phases. We got to make sure that we are consistent with what we've already got in motion. And that relies on transportation-oriented design, live, work, play, cultural enrichment, shops, places to live, work, and entertainment, all of this stuff's in the document here. And again, we either disregard the document and say, well, this doesn't matter. We never needed it. So let's just take it on a case-by-case basis and be fearful that every developer is going to take us to court because they don't get their way. You know, newsflash, again, he said 60 jobs. That's wonderful. Okay, if that's what the future we want is people coming here to work and then go home back to their neighborhoods, that's great. If we want to create a vibrant downtown, that's not it. You know, and so the discussion that comes in front of you is case by case. And you should be looking at in terms of the guiding document, which is the plan of conservation. Well, this is not an insignificant document. And they keep on brushing it off as if it's insignificant. Oh, but by the way, in case it does matter, it's only 60 jobs. And we're bringing 60 jobs, so we check off the box. This is not about jobs. It's about creating harmony in the community and making sure that the development is done on a planned basis. And the planned basis, this flies in the face of that. And again, I got 25 years into it. Carlos has a number of years into it. Our board was created from the Economic Development Commission, which I chaired for 6 years, so that we created a bipartisan board that survived political ebbs and flows. Politics never comes up, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. The board's the board. And so economic development decisions are long-term, not forward. Nothing's done short-term. If they were, we'd have strip malls all over the downtown. And that's kind of where it's at. So I urge you to do the right thing and just say no. You don't need to say yes. There's nothing here for that will there's no threat here other than litigation. And if we're all scared of litigation, nobody would do anything. You know, this is our community, we gotta go by what people have told us and what we've created. This document is valid. And this particular use of that particular property does not meet. And I'll give you the page number if you want, just so you can read it. Page 7, just read the third paragraph. I'm not gonna
Okay,
read
I
it,
got
but
7
it's
right
there
here.
for you if you'd
Let's see
like
if
to
it's
see
still
it.
the same.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So the building already exists, the structure is already there, so that's, none of that has any impact as far as the way it looks. On Ed's discussion point. And it's just because I want to make sure I frame this properly in my mind. Is the actual entity itself and the services that are being offered is the issue? Is it the fact, because it's not residential, the fact that they're living there because there's apartments going up right across the street, so that's not the problem. The building is established, so that's not the problem. It's the actual services being offered by the facility that is creating the concern.
The concern is that it's inconsistent with bringing vibrancy to the downtown. And whether people are housed there or people are living, working, playing, and actively engaged with the transportation components of what we're doing downtown, that they're not going to be that. And that's inconsistent with our plan for the downtown. And the building itself is fine. And the building itself, like I said, after a couple of proposals, we had some, building went from 3 stories down to 1 story and then back up to 2 stories with some give and take from our board. Developers were gracious enough to accommodate us with brick that we requested from the beginning because it had changed to stucco and a bunch of other building services that architects and engineers and people, historians told us, you need to keep it consistent with the downtown architecture because you have these 11 city beautiful movement buildings that were between 1875 and 1925 that are still standing downtown. So this particular use can hamper what is which is happening across the street, which is the Penrose Valley. And
If it wasn't inpatient, if it wasn't inpatient, if it was an outpatient facility, would that change your viewpoint?
I think the fact that
To answer statement before, there's already a medical there, there's people coming and going for work.
so I think the fact that it's a treatment center really is a red herring. This is a real estate transaction. That's what it is. This particular facility can be in any square footage, quite frankly, not in the center of the downtown and the gateway pieces to our community. That's what we're concerned about. How we project the image to the community, how that will affect subsequent development in the community. Because all the experts we've spoken to for the last 25 years have all told us that. Successful communities always make sure their gateways are consistent with their themes for the downtown and ultimately provide live, work, play, cultural enrichment, entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. This goes against that. And again, this particular facility could be in any other square footage anywhere else in the community. There may be a need for it. And again, they can better answer that. I'm not the person to answer that. Whether or not there is a need, there probably is. More than likely there's a need. And let's assume there is a need. But it does not need to be in that particular location. And this is all just a real estate transaction. That's what this is about. This is not anything other than. So this is not, they're not constructing a new facility that are creating or doing something in another area. This is an existing structure that originally was not proposed to do that.
So if this was a facility that did shoulder surgery, knee replacement, hip replacement, and people had to stay there, that would not fit in either? Because that's not a vibrant person, that's a person that's has to stay for a medical use. Should we not have approved St. Mary's to have been there then? That's not vibrant? I don't understand.
Okay, so you're bringing up hypotheticals that we have an application in front of us right now with a treatment center proposed for real estate that is available downtown. The business owners that Carlos mentioned, myself being past chair and current member of the Economic Development Corporation Board, and all the 25 years worth of accumulated information that we've received tells us that this goes against that, this particular application. Not a
Does it
hypothetical.
specifically say that?
Huh?
Is it specifically stating that?
No,
Is you're inferring based on what the recommendation is?
no, this is a real estate transaction. Right now, this is a lease. That's what it is. So there's nothing there that adds to what they're offering downtown. And the risk of having that particular program there downtown may derail everything else happening across the street, and certainly the existing business owners are concerned about that.
Well,
It's taken us 25
we
years
have
to
a
get-
text amendment before us, not a lease.
Mhm.
They have brought before us a text amendment that we're looking
I understand it.
to add into where it says about hospitals, which are allowed in the B1 zone. Convalescent homes, nursing homes, those things are allowed. And what you're telling us, that zone where that building is, we should not be having those things downtown.
I'm telling you, it's anchored on a real estate lease.
Can I say something with the PLCD under economic development? It does call out jobs and unemployment.
I
So
understand
that is part of yours, but you said jobs weren't, so I'm just
Understand.
correcting you on our POCD. And
And-
commuting patterns
The
with the
zoning
train.
commission's responsibility is not POCD, that's the planning commission's.
No, the PLCD applies to all commissions. Again, you can read it on page 1 right here. No.
Or on page 22.
So, jobs are a component, without a doubt.
They are, and that's the reason the train station has increased.
Yes.
So they can bring people in or out of Naugatuck to jobs. So I'm just saying that is also part of this.
As are the other criteria on page 7. And again, which were,
Page 7 was all about the regional plan of conservation and development, which is new. They haven't completed that.
yeah, and it also talks about the downtown community core, which is again, what we've been working on for 25 years. And again, we're not arguing whether or not we need a treatment facility. This is a real estate lease asking for a tax rate.
That's what the text change is.
Tax rate.
That's what's.
But it's anchored on a real estate. That's what I'm trying to get. It could be anywhere. And it might even be better suited for the patients. Sometimes. We don't know, and I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you on behalf of our board and the concerned downtown businesses. We got 25 years into this, and this flies in the face of everything the experts have told us. And our commissions have the authority to enforce that, like other good communities do. They protect their downtown areas and make sure that they're consistent with their plans. We've got our plans, a few of them, and the most recent one in 2023. We're just saying, just follow the spirit of that plan. That's not hard to do, and it's not excluding anybody or not. We're saying this particular plan is for the downtown.
Yeah, just a comment you referred early on about people, human beings aged.
No, there's
And you said that, and I realize that people have their right to public comment, but not a good thing.
okay, well, and I apologize for that comment, but in the particular plan, it shows an area that is fenced in. Which is, I got you, and I strike that if I may. But the area is in a parking lot that may be, again, ill suited for what it's intending to do. Not my opinion again, just saying based on the plan submitted. I appreciate your time. Any other questions?
I have one last question because some of the public comment is around not there, but you can have it in our community, just not in that location. Being on the MEDC and invested for over 25 years, do you have any recommendations for where in town it would be more appropriate?
I think if it's, again, I'm not an expert in this field. What I do know is it's a lease, and it's a lease for space. And there's nothing that property uniquely brings to it that adds to that, and the downside and the risks associated with that type of facility in the heart of the downtown protected gateway pieces of the downtown can unravel a lot of what's already underway. It's taken us years to achieve. That's our concern. And I'm not here to argue about whether or not we need treatment facilities or not. We likely do, like everywhere else. With no question about that, likely. Whether or not they belong in the downtown area and whether or not they suit the patients the most, I'm not an expert to answer that. What I do know is based upon the experts that have given us their good counsel over the years. They've all said these particular pieces of the downtown historic area, you've got to make sure that you accentuate the positives that you have downtown. We have those City Beautiful movement buildings, which no one else does. We have architectural charrettes that come from Columbia University with sketch pads in hand, so they can walk 2 miles downtown and sketch buildings that were designed by Mead and Kim White by some phenomenal architects of the day. They're all within walking area. So So yeah, we have something historic down there. We've got to preserve it. We've got to also make sure that future development is consistent architecturally with what we've already got. And that's why the proposal to make that building one floor at the time, we objected to. And it was proposed to us as a three-story building. It became one story. So now it's two. So we just want to make sure that we don't derail what has been long underway and commencing this year across the street.
I just have one last question. Is there anything within that document? That document is a 25-year document that shows the vision for Naugatuck. Is there any legal borough state level code ordinance, anything in that document that's creates it as a binding document, or is this a, for lack of a better term, give me recommendation?
It's an advisory document. No question, it's an advisory document. And it's the document states it right in the first page. But it was put in place to make sure that it provided guidance for situations like this. So what do you plan on doing? Our economic development board, without this particular document, we played a role in creating the document. The feedback was gathered from all commissions, from residents and so on. And the idea is, you know, who were we? Who do we want to be? We were a community of innovators here. We have a vibrant history, and part of our economic development, our motto is where innovation works, because innovation is where we began our trip in the Industrial Revolution. You know, vulcanization of rubber, Uniral rubber shop. We had a tremendous history going back to malleable iron. If you go back even further, and these were industrialists. So we have a history of innovation in our community. We took that, captured it, and said we're going to make our Economic Development Commission Corporation stand for where innovation works. And that's on our letterhead. You know, so we tried to tip the hat to that when we were considering proposals, and we've had proposals for things that are create urban sprawl and stuff like that, and we've shied away from that. So very much appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Rob Morris. I'm one of the principals at 58 Maple Street. You need my address?
Yeah.
My work address is 25 Candy Hill Road, Clarktown, Connecticut. So I'd just like to address a couple of brief comments. And I first want to let you know, we appreciate, my partner and I really appreciate your ability to listen to us. And you have a tough decision to make. I get that. All these commissions work hard, and no decision on any project is easy. I personally think this is very easy. There's been a lot of misinformation that's been put out in the community as to what we're trying to do here. And I see this very simple. All we're trying to do is provide quality, necessary medical services of those that are in need. We have a medical building here. We put Trinity Health in there. We put my eye doctor in there. We invested $6.5 million into that building, a lot of which we expected was going to be full medical. But the zone allows for a variety of uses beyond medical. The transit district that was, I think, approved across the street, I don't know that much about it, but it's my understanding it's a very broad base approval, which allows pretty much almost anything, housing, medical, and a whole variety of other things. From my perspective, we're just putting a medical use in this building. We're trying to fill a building with necessary services that are well documented in the community that we put out in evidence with the CHIP report, the state report. We've heard from some people who like to come up and spew misinformation, say, well, there's no need. Give us the evidence. This use isn't good downtown. Well, give us the evidence. Well, this doesn't comply with the plan of our plan of conservation and development. Give us the evidence. The red herring is in those kinds of comments. The red herring is in the cage comment. Certain people in this community want you to be concerned that somehow we're doing something nefarious here. I can tell you this, I've invested in this community just like Mr. Santos has done. I was born and raised in this community. I still have tons of family in this community, and I love this community. And I personally don't believe I'm doing anything wrong by trying to bring a high-quality tenant like the Haven, who has shown anyone who wants to listen how good they are. They have the highest accreditation. They do phenomenal work. They help people every day get back to a normal life that they otherwise couldn't get. That's what we're trying to do here. Some fearmongers in the audience will tell you, oh my God, what is this going to do to our community? It's going to do nothing more than what Trinity Health is doing, than what my eye doctor is doing. Then what if we brought a cardiologist in here or another physician of some sort? What I'm hearing, quite frankly, is we'll allow anything but that. I've heard from people surrounding us, we don't want those people here. Some of it's been on the record in various commission meetings. I find that unconscionable. These are our loved ones, our family members, our friends. We've all been hit with somebody who's dealt with substance abuse. Why should they be treated any differently than someone who needs a stent or someone who's dealing with cancer or anything else? I just don't get it, folks. You're going to make whatever decision you're going to make. I'm trying to fill my building with good quality tenants that help this community. I believe the Haven, they have come to every meeting. They've been here, answered any question that you want. We've offered them to meet with community members who want to hear the true story of what they're going to do there. There's not going to be people lined up. I spoke with a business owner today who said, we're worried, someone right across the street from us, we're worried about loitering. There's going to be no loitering. Zero loitering. As a matter of fact, there's a lot less loitering here than if we were in a liquor store or some corner store. As a matter of fact, I know we have a report which we could submit to you that suggests there was a report that was done, a study that was done that suggests that substance abuse facilities have much less violent crime near them than liquor stores or corner stores. So what are we talking about here? We're really talking about a red herring that these somehow are bad people, don't deserve the care that they need, and not in my backyard. That's what I'm hearing. And I gotta be honest, as someone who's born and raised in Naugatuck, who's worked hard in this community, my partner and I have invested a lot of money downtown already. We're not what ifs and maybes of who may come across the street, who may come downtown. We've already done it. You can touch and feel our building. We support the community. We offer our facilities for all of the local groups that want to use it. Someone talked about Duck Day. We offer our parking lot for Duck Day every year. We're good, solid citizens in this community. And I gotta tell you, I'm sick and tired of listening. I've been sitting back listening to all this from people who I know and respect a lot. And I'm shocked that they somehow are suggesting to me and my partner are bad people. We're trying to do something nefarious here. And this is just bad for Naugatuck. It is far from bad for Naugatuck. It is phenomenal for Naugatuck because we got a great company, The Haven. We're going to offer awesome services for those in need. We have 60 to 70 employees, highly educated, highly paid, who are going to be in the community and partake in services. Is Trinity Health any different than that? They probably have less employees. So this really boils down to, folks, I'll leave it at this. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody personally, but we know what this is about. Not in my backyard. That's what really this is about. And I got to tell you, in this day and age, I'm shocked by that mentality. I believe we're doing something really good here. I would hope you all would get behind this because so many of our loved ones need this services. Read the CHIP, read the state report. Make sure you understand how many people need this service. And these gentlemen, The Haven, are the people to do it in a high quality way. And we're here to support that effort. I thank you for your time. I know you guys work hard. I know you love this community. I also love this community, and I don't feel bashful or feel bad about anything we're doing here. Quite frankly, I feel really good that I'm standing up for people who are desperately in need of services, and we're trying to help them get them. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Dave Rogers. I live at 100 Hill Road in Naugatuck. I also own Gateway Financial Partners on Church Street. I've grown up in this town, as many of you know. I love Naugatuck. Most of my friends have moved out, as Mr. Orris has moved out. I am very excited about the development of downtown. We've been waiting for this a long time. A lot of you people are also natives of Naugatuck, and you've been waiting for this for a long time. I'm really concerned that this type of facility in this location, the gateway of Naugatuck, is wrong for the town. And the Haven, they have a lot of facilities, but only one of them is downtown anywhere else. And there's probably a reason for that. It's not the most appropriate place for it. And the only other point I want to make is that the Economic Development Commission, you can't really dismiss what they're trying to do for the town. They've been working to do economic development for 25 years, and they came up with a unanimous no vote from their board. For me, I mean, they don't have any alternative motives other than to make Naugatuck a better place to live. Thank you.
Evening, Jeffrey Doy, 255 Webb Road, Naugatuck. Lived here for 40 years. This proposition to me has a lot of positives, as we've heard. Clearly, there's members of the public today that suffer drugs, alcohol abuse, many other problems that do need this kind of facility. My mother and father worked in a psychiatric medical hospital pretty much most of their lives. I have a lot of stories I can tell you about what they were and how they were conducted. So I've got some experience. This is a detox center, and at the previous meeting I understood they were not allowed out, or they would be chaperoned out around the town if they wanted to leave. Now, I need that to be clarified, because I feel a lot of people here in this town are worried about, I'll say drug addicts, or for a better word, problem people wandering around town, maybe not fully detoxed, maybe have issues. I've seen them with my mum and dad, so I can't talk from that experience. For me, I think the majority of the people here are worried about that. We all agree that that building's been empty for a long time, and we do need revenue from it. There are the positive sides. But is it really the right place? Can someone clarify how this is going to work with the patients in there? They go, first of all, it was 2 weeks. Then I heard it might be 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. I need to understand that from my perspective, because I am a bit worried. Previous gentleman said NIMBY, of course, we all know. Would you put this in drainage? Is there one in drainage? If people have money, they can block this. We don't have money here. We're just looking at, is it a sensible proposition in that position, in that location? And I'd like to have clarification of how functionality it is when these people come in. Are they completely cured? Or are they allowed to come and go? Because I think that's what most people are worried about. Thank you.
I'm going to read one comment that we have that was submitted online via email. I'm writing in support of the proposed residential treatment facility at 58 Maple Street. Like the applicant, I believe this facility will support a currently unfulfilled need here in the Naugatuck Valley. Substance use disorder is exactly that, a medical disorder no different from other conditions that require health interventions. Just as we don't look askance at someone who has diabetes or asthma, it's long past time for us as a society to stop stigmatizing both those who have a substance use disorder and those who work to treat it. I can think of no better location for a potential treatment facility than 58 Maple Street. The facility would not be located in a residential area and would instead be inside a building that is already home to 2 other medical facilities. The location doesn't have the potential to impact property values or negatively affect nearby businesses. Further, the business model being proposed by Haven Health Management ensures that patients won't simply be coming or going or have contact with the general public during their treatment. Even a brief glimpse at the company's 20+ facilities in 6 other states shows that they clearly know what they are doing. Sincerely, Patrick Scalzi, 40 Sheffield Lane, Naugatuck, Connecticut.
So we've got one more from the public. Thank you about. Thanks. I'm Jim O'Donnell and I live on Allerton Road. I also have a business here. I like to speak out in support of this. It's difficult because I know I have friends here that maybe on the other side of the argument, but that's democracy. That's how it goes. Addiction has affected my family deeply. Many members of my family struggled along the last addiction. Let's just say I spent more time in church basements, getting to know people by their first name, last initial, and I came to respect to the here today. I respect all the work that people have done in the last 25 or 30 years to develop downtown. I've lived in Naugatuck 55 years. Development downtown has been an issue since Reagan was president. And respectfully, we may be letting good be the end of the matter here. We're trying to find the perfect step forward for the town. This is a step, not the direction that everyone would hope. It's certainly going to bring in jobs, it's going to bring in revenue. And we really can't foresee that this will come from a development like this. But I would be loath to say that it's not going to be in the town's best interest. The issue I want to raise is one that I haven't heard discussed, and I apologize if it's been brought up before. I sort of parachuted into this about 3 or 4 days ago, and it's brought to my attention. And I'm going to go back to the public comments that were made on May 14th by Attorney Mike McBerry. Now, I work in the same building as Mike. I've known him since I was literally this high. So I have the utmost respect for him. And again, I hate to take you out to the side of the argument. I want to read something which was very revealing, and it makes a very good point, albeit a point that he did not intend to make. I'll read from the minutes of May 14th, and I will say that Attorney McBerry went on to state Connecticut General Statute 8-3EA talks about how zoning regulations cannot treat any community residence that treats 8 or fewer people with an intellectual, mental, or physical disability any differently than a single family dwelling. What that means is anyone who has a single family dwelling can put up, in common parlance, a sober house, and they can have these houses in residential areas. And Mike's exactly right. There's nothing that can be done about this. We have no ability. It's governed by the 1990 Americans with Disability Act. And what I'm concerned about here is what happens if this project doesn't go through. What fills that vacuum? We all admit that there's a great need. And I would suggest something to you that what we're going to see is an eruption of these sober houses. People try to fill that need. Now, these houses are ill-regulated, if at all. Many of them do not provide services and treatment, certainly not the gold standard that we're seeing represented here by Haven. I want to read you something really quickly, if you will indulge me for 30 seconds. And this is someone's opinion, so I'm sure there are others out there, and I encourage you to take a look at it. But let me discuss sober living homes. Recovery residents or sober living homes, as they are known, are group homes that bring together multiple unrelated individuals who are in drug recovery and pursuing sobriety. What can be possibly harmful such places of healing, hope, and support? Nothing in the case of many responsible residential owners who need help their inhabitants. However, there are also unscrupulous actors running sober living houses who profit off the misery of their occupants. Landlords exploit individuals with substance abuse disorders for money or sex, or even encourage relapse over recovery. I'm concerned we might have a number of these facilities pop up in that. Apparently, in case people are going to point the finger at me and declare that I'm drawing a false equivalency, let me give you Mike's own words.
The statute, which limits 8 or fewer people, this is the statute 8-3 EA that is discussing. This application here from Haven is talking about 8 times that number. 8 times that. What it's saying is essentially that this facility is the equivalent of at least 8 sober homes. Now, I'm not saying that when it's in will prevent 8 here, but there has to be, it's axiomatic, there has to be some relationship between high quality service in Naugatuck and a negative correlation to the number of sober houses that we get. So I'd ask people to take a closer look at this. And I'm sure there are studies out there, and again, I just parachuted into this, I'm not an expert in this way. But what does it mean for Naugatuck if somebody is, I mean, I've got a business, right? If somebody's downtown, I guarantee you they've got insurance, they've got an alarm system, and if somebody tries, and they're probably closed after dark, majority of these businesses, things are gonna be okay. Somebody breaks in and steals a stapler or a copy machine, it's not gonna be the end of the world. What I'm worried about is somebody who lives in a single family residence who goes to bed at night with their kids, and they're drug addicts 100 feet away, who may be out at 1 a.m. Downtown, we've got an ability to, you've got first responders in terms of the fire department, it's just a mere couple 100 feet away. It's well lit. I know somebody's been bringing up the issue of bars. There's also a lot of churches downtown. There's a support network here people can tap into. I would argue the location of downtown is ideal because it allows people to get in and out by train. It makes visitation easier for people who may not be familiar with the navigation of Naugatuck. Certainly that's been an issue for those driven on 440 for the last few weeks. I just think there are a lot of things here that we need to take a closer look at. And I apologize if I've said anything that's out of order or in conflict with my good friends. As I said, this was just brought to my attention, but I'd like everyone to look at it through that lens. Do you want a sober house going up next to you? I know that the house next to me has been abandoned. And it was bought by a bunch of people from out of state. Don't know who they are, we don't have any ties to the community. These sober houses attract investors. Because what they can do is they can buy them for cash. They can make improvements in cash. And what comes out on the back end? A nice, clean, money laundered stream of income. In return of insurance payments. I'm the financial services industry. Same company as Mr. Rogers here. And I can tell you that money laundering through real estate is a huge problem. You're going to see a lot of changes take place with regulations over the next couple of years. So do I want people coming in and moving one of these homes in next to me without any necessary credentials? Or would I rather have something that's state of the art? It's going to provide jobs. Again, this is a step, maybe not the direction people thought, but it is a step forward. And I thank everybody for this.
Either one.
Whichever.
Either one.
Alex Borgo, 1058 River Avenue. I've been around the town a little time, little while. Last year, as of last week, 8 years to be specific. There's several points that come up that I think anybody that's been around this area and reads paper once in a while has seen things of this sort, not picking on this particular company. I know nothing about them. But there's been facilities of this sort in various areas around the state of Connecticut that have developed very, very bad reputations. The people, if they're, it's not nice to say it, but if they're enclosed and can't get loose, then maybe it's okay. But if they're free to run loose, as most things are allowed by the state of Connecticut, And this goes for druggies or alcoholics or just weirdo people. Everybody's free to go where they want. If the state of Connecticut had it, you could take a state facility that had a relative that was in Trump. Take them there, drop them off. And it's a wonderful setup. Because all they have to do is go up and sign the name and leave. If they're enclosed, locked in, and are not free to roam, and if you don't see them, you don't hear them, maybe you don't realize they're there. But unfortunately, that never, ever, ever happens. I've seen it in Litchfield, I've seen it from the papers. I've seen it in Woodbury and other places in the states where these things haven't worked out at all. And something else that I think anybody that lives in town, it should be a little bit close to your height. Naugatuck is not what it once was, but it is what it is. But you don't want to make it worse. And you're going to be related to what you create as a neighborhood. If you've got facilities of this sort all around town, and they may be well intentioned, they present a terrible reputation. And have to stop and think that the town is in the midst of at this point. We're trying to revitalize the town. And unless it is completely enclosed and locked up, so to speak, not so to speak, actually, it's not good for the community at all. And pretty much going by what I've seen and everybody else, I'm sure it can read and read the newspaper on occasion has seen. These things don't fly very well. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public that wants to make a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trying out for records. So, as I said, they're listening, particularly to the first two speakers, the last two. I thought, so what's the best adjective to describe what we're hearing? I mean, my client certainly described as spearmongering, basic spearmongering, frankly. Certainly discriminatory. I mean, I think it's a perhaps one of the kinder things. Certainly offensive to anyone who's ever been in one of these facilities with family members. So, rail the downtown, hamper the downtown, or somehow we're going to not preserve the history, people be locked up, not allowed out, wandering downtown. I guess the best word is just really disappointing. It's really disappointing. When you think that whatever you listen, we heard about, there's no political news, and so I'm not going down the road.
when you think you make some progress, and then you sort of, these comments are laid bare. It's shocking, frankly. Maybe that's what it's disappointing and shocking. Because how many times, and I think I'm saying this for last year, said, I'm not an expert, I'm not an expert, I'm not. Dan Wright is not an expert, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And we talked about, well, our experts saying, their experts didn't say a word about our groups. My guess, if you bring back all those people, they're probably decidedly more enlightened than he is, and say, yeah, this is a good thing. Because, as I'm sure, the commission member kept on asking, well, how is this different? Well, we heard nothing but conjecture and generalities, that's no specifics of any kind. It's going to be detrimental to the community. It's going to deter the development of downtown, hamper and derail us with no reason why. They were asked, how is this different from a knee surgery? How is this different from, any other treatment, cancer treatment? And they could offer no specifics. And I guess we should think before we open our mouths. I don't know if they really thought about what they were saying. There is no basis for anything in what they say. And yes, I respect the 25 years trying to improve downtown Naugatuck, but this is not a problem. You kept on waving the POCD in front of you. That is not the relevant document. The controlling document is the comprehensive plan. And that is your zoning regulations. But if you want to talk about the POCD, let's find, the famous page 5, a mix of businesses along existing major roadways. It will offer places to live, work, shop, and eat. Talk about live, work, play. Well, that's what we're doing. Want to talk about the POCD? We're complying with that. I'm not going to mention Kate's jail because that's been done. Talk about, don't let us push your way. Listen, there's a lot I could say about the Fair Housing Act and cases under that act. I've touched upon this, but frankly, out of respect for you, and you have excellent counsel that my guess is he's going to offer his commentary or already has done so. So we haven't gone down that road. We want to tell you why this is the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do under the comprehensive plan. If you want to apply Connecticut law, I think it's the right thing to do under the Fair Housing Act. But there's a reason why the Fair Housing Act exists. It's because of that mentality. And you could replace people who have misused drugs and alcohol, maybe with someone who has a mental illness or some other, handicap, and hear the exact same thing. That's why the Fair Housing Act was necessary, and that's unfortunate. And it's not limited to handicaps. It goes to race, gender, and all those other qualities. And that's just say, well, it's going to hamper the downtown. It's, as I said, just frankly disappointing. The people will be walking and gathering there, and we can't see the fact that there is maybe a sign that says heritage, health, not knowing or not acknowledging the tough and valiant work that the people who live there are doing, and the people who work there are helping them. I would like to think that if I were on the Economic Development Commission, I would say, welcome Haven. We're going to champion you as a sign of our open-heartedness, our open arms, and our desire to bring vitality to the borough of Naugatuck. By the way, I don't see anyone from the federalists here tonight. My guess is, if asked, they wouldn't have a problem with this either. And we heard about the 25 years of experience doing this. They have no experience with issues. We have experts. I'm going to have Peter come up and talk about the last two speakers. But at the end of the day, no specifics were offered of any kind of how this is going to be in any way detrimental to your community. As I said, I think it's quite just the opposite. Now, in terms of responding to Mr. Rogers, Mr. Doy, and then I think Mr. Wargy, I want Peter to speak on some of these issues.
Thanks for the opportunity. I think I introduced myself to most of the folks here. Maybe people don't know. I'm a consultant. I'm engaged by Haven. I've been in the field of substance use treatment for 50 years. I mostly worked in residential.
State your name.
Yes, sorry. Yes, Peter Rockholz. I live in Greenwich. Well, 25 years I ran facilities like this, Connecticut, and for the next 25 I set them up in prisons around the country and in communities around the country, 31 states I consulted in. And then I was the Deputy Commissioner for Addictions for the state of Connecticut under Governor Rell for 5 years. So I was responsible for all the treatment services in Connecticut. I'd make a couple of comments. I mean, I think most of the reflections have been already made. But I'm sitting here and I was getting a little impressed because it took me back to 50 years ago when I walked into one of these facilities where I wasn't locked in, where I had the choice to leave. And it saved my life. And it saved my little brother's life. And if it wasn't for that opportunity in Norwalk, Connecticut, in Fairfield County, I wouldn't be here today. There was a comment about how this wasn't, to be fighting for this against this down in Greenwich. I live in Greenwich. I have a treatment facility in Greenwich that is well embraced by the community. They're very proud of it. We help a lot of people. Just a couple of comments about the underlying, sentiments about fear and that these are dangerous people. They're going to be committing crimes and scaring people out in the streets. 3 studies I can provide you with indicate that when their treatment facility is located in a town, the crime rate goes down. It's 30% lower than it is on the corner store and in convenience stores and liquor stores. Quite the opposite of what you might think, and obviously some do think. And I guess the other thing that just seems obvious to me is, would you rather have X number of hundreds of people, and I'm going to give you some numbers in a minute, continuing to be using drugs in a harmful manner, perhaps committing crimes to get the resources to get those drugs out in the community, or would you rather have them in your treatment facility where they're getting treatment and they're stopping those behaviors? Doesn't that make perfect sense? We were asked a couple of times about numbers, and we weren't providing numbers. I don't know why we need to provide, data to support the need for this program, but I'll give you a couple of numbers here. If you take the population of Naugatuck, approximately 31,400, the rate of substance use disorder need for treatment, diagnosable disorder, is 14.9%. So there are approximately 4,684 residents of Naugatuck who need treatment for substance use disorder. They're not getting it in Naugatuck because there are no licensed treatment facilities in Naugatuck. The numbers of individuals estimated from projections who are having substance use disorder diagnosable in need of treatment, 4,684. That's just from Naugatuck. Right, so the project here is proposing to serve a broader area. Obviously, when people come in for a knee replacement or any kind of medical procedure here, they're going to come in from other towns. You may go to another town to get one of those medical procedures. So, we're talking about a little broader than obviously just serving people in Naugatuck. So if we look at the 29 town target area that we're talking about, the Naugatuck River Valley, That number is 12,936 in need of treatment. So that's really all. Anything else?
Only with regard to how patients may choose to leave.
Yeah, so people come in for detox are sick. They're sick and tired, and they're physically sick, and they just want to rest and get well. And they want to get into the position where they can perhaps receive the treatment that they need. And so the main goal of the detox facility is to engage them in the treatment at a level that they need, which initially is residential treatment. Haven is proposing to co-locate detox floor with a residential treatment, dental residential treatment floor. This is ideal. This will enable them to maximize the conversion rate of getting people engaged in treatment, which is critical. Otherwise, yes, you're going to see people relapsing at a higher rate. But when they're handed off to a treatment experience, the chance that they're going to continue to be in recovery go up tremendously. And I think I showed a slide last time about the rate that Haven converts people into treatment versus the state average here, which is about 13%, and Haven's rate is 70%. So yeah, so thank you.
Just a couple of questions. If you can, length of stay,
Yeah.
with, it was reported 2 weeks to.
Right.
Good afternoon, my name is Cheyenne Riker, General Counsel for Haven Health Management. I live in Indiana. I'm also the Executive Director of Indiana Center for Recovery in Bedford. It is one of our 2 facilities that has a downtown location. And the length of stay for this type of procedure is it's anywhere from the detox period is 7 days typically, sometimes less depending on the need of the patient. And then the typical approval rate and the recommendation is anywhere from 30 to 60 days for a residential stay. So we're looking at anywhere from 7 to 67 days on average.
Okay, and you talked earlier about warm handoff. So the detox to the intensive care will be the handoff, and then you're going to partner with other locations for another warm handoff for residential?
Sure. So I'm not sure. I don't usually use the term warm handoff, but what happens is the detox level is transitioned down to a residential level of care, depending on what the needs of the patient would be. During that residential program, they are assigned a case manager. So every person has a case manager. Immediately, that case manager begins to work with them on the next step for their recovery. So that means reaching out to other providers in the area or back in the areas from where they came. They set up programming so that they get follow-up care, which is what Peter was referencing. We have a 70% rate of ensuring good quality follow-up care. That's one way that we know we can track the metric, is to ensure that they get that next appointment. And so it's about case management. So as far as a warm handoff, that's what it is to me. So in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. Is the case manager reaches out, works with the patient to ensure good quality follow-up care. And the next step down from what we would offer is called hospitalization. And then it steps down another level to intensive outpatient. And then from there, it's an outpatient program. So this is a full continuum that's, for us, stops at residential, and then continues with other providers at the location, inpatient.
I was thinking that you said something before about you're going to partner or contract with other agencies.
Yes, correct. So we have, because there are no such outpatient programs in Naugatuck, we had to partner with some others. So we have 3 commitments, one in New Milford, one in Bridgeport, and one in Greenwich. So that those people who need to have that continuing care can go to those facilities. Then there'll probably be some others.
And I just want to make sure those questions were answered. Going. His, you referred to other people commenting about people wandering around. And what are you gonna do where people wander around?
We get this a lot, in when we do the zoning hearings all across the country, and that's one term that's typically raised. And what folks have to remember is these are our family members. We're not here to lock people up. This isn't a jail. It's a treatment center for people who are voluntarily, they've reached a point in their lives where they're saying, you know what, life has gotten so bad for me that I need a real program. So we're not locking folks down. They're not the type of folks who are at risk for creating havoc in our communities. Notwithstanding, we want to make sure that our people get the best care. And one thing we do is we ensure that they have transportation to and from our facility wherever they go. At the residential level of care, that requires medical and clinical supervision at all times. So no one can leave our facility without medical and clinical supervision. Could they AMA? Theoretically, they could leave against medical advice and just disappear into the mist. That is definitely a possibility. But we cannot lock folks down. These are folks that are here voluntarily. We don't accept court orders. So when folks come here, we ensure that they are subject to a court order, because those folks are here because folks are requiring them to. That's not us. We're here accepting voluntary patients. They want to be here. And so we just make it a point to ensure that people have good quality transportation to and from our facilities at all times. The longest distance that someone will walk outside our facility would be from the vehicle into the facility, from the facility into the vehicle. And they would be taken to where they would walk.
And could you just, you also said about the program being or state-of-the-art, different than other programs. Is that because the detox to the intensive residential? Or was it different from other programs in the state?
So it's not uncommon to have a detox and then a transition into residential. What makes us different is what we invest in our treatment modalities. So first of all, we pay higher than market for every therapist, every nurse practitioner, and every physician. Because we want to make sure that we get the best people. Best people are on the cutting edge of addiction treatment technology. We offer brain mapping technologies that allow us to track patients' progress through the process. We offer, it's called EMDR, it's eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is another advanced technology. It's been around for a little while now, but a lot of folks, they find it to be really useful. We offer a whole range of treatment modalities that a lot of other folks don't, and we do it all under one roof. And so we're able to treat addictions and mental health issues from a number of different directions. So for example, I had a patient about 2 weeks ago. He had been everywhere. He'd been to a number of high-level or high-end treatment facilities throughout the Midwest. He could not get what he wanted, and we found the one treatment modality that would work for him. And we finally found it because we have the best people who are on the cutting edge of education in addiction and mental health treatment. And the more tools you have in your belt, which we have a lot, the more we're able to provide a good quality service and get people the results that they need, and frankly, the results that they deserve. That's how we do it. We invest a lot. And our margin is probably thinner than other companies, but that's okay because we're getting good results.
Just out of curiosity, what exactly is the purpose of all funds in here?
It's simply to provide an outdoor space for staff and the residents. That's all that it is. It's just, and we showed a picture in the last meetings. It's going to be outfitted in a very attractive manner. Yes, it has effects. My backyard has effects around it. It's pretty small and it has nice furniture. That's what this is going to be. So it's simply an outdoor area so that the residents and the staff can go and get some fresh air when they choose to. It's simply, that's all that is.
but it's consistent with the rest of the facility in that the only way into or out of that area is through the facility itself. There's no gate to the outside fence. Within the fence itself. I believe so, yes. In that area.
On the practical point with the outdoor area, every 15 minutes, we have a behavioral health technician that puts his or her eyes on each and every patient. One thing about an outdoor area that's enclosed is it enables us to make sure that we can always keep eyes on it. So it's really a practical component on that.
That's not true.
That's true. They can walk out. If they walk out the front, we'll give them a ride. So it's not, they won't walk too far before they get to our car. Because we understand people sometimes want to leave against another car. But we want to make sure that they have a way back. We don't want to leave them. It's the last place.
Hi, Rob Morris again. I just wanted to expand on the referral question that came up. I spoke earlier this week or last week, actually, with an individual in Griffin Health. It's my understanding that they offer outpatient services there. And we talked briefly about, the connection to the services that will be provided here. And I suspect that they're going to look for additional referral sources here in the local market. Griffin potentially, hopefully being one of them, that when they finish their care here in the Haven, if we're lucky enough to be able to bring them here, maybe Griffin or some of the other local facilities will be able to enter into that referral network. So I just want to let you know.
Wouldn't it be better to have a place where you can walk out and walk around and enjoy scenery and birds and whatever else instead of going out to work and something like going back into the place? I mean, for me, I would want to see what I was missing, look at and enjoy life a little, not go from here to the little, I don't know, if they know the whole area. We have said, I don't know what we're gonna make there right now.
Sure. So we'll have outdoor furniture and things of that nature, but I agree with you. I want to be able to get out in the outdoors as well. That's why this is a limited state program. It's 30 to 60 days, sometimes 67, count the detox. That step down program that I referred to, the partial hospitalization, typically those folks will go to a sober living component in a community where they're from. And they're involved in about a 12-hour program every day. But during that program, we're able to get out and do those things. But
Yeah, but they're only going to the school.
sure,
And they're not looking at stuff, enjoying what they're missing.
sure.
I know my brother died from alcohol. I saved his life twice. And, this one was. That's what we're gonna do. To have something for them to get interested in.
So we do some of that indoors. I understand where you're coming from. The folks usually, they know in advance that they're going to be in a confined area for this short period. There's not really a residential program because we have to have clinical and medical supervision at all times. Where at this level of care, where needs are so dire that we can open up, the great outdoors, if you will, to the folks that are in need of this level of care. They are permitted at the lower levels of care, but the needs of these folks that we're treating at this level are such that it would be at risk for them to go out and do too much exploring. That's why we do sort of an enclosed type space like this. This is true for every mental and behavioral health facility that offers detox and residential that I'm aware of. Now the step down to PHP and IOP, we do a number of things. We do everything from equine therapy. This is one of our Indiana facilities that offers those lower levels. We do hiking, we do all those things that you're referring to, but at this high level of care, that's just not a practical option to ensure that they get the care that they need.
Any other comments from the public?
Oh, my grandfather was a pet person. I just feel really bad that someone as a longtime president, somebody had to come off 50, and you as a board, and rest of the people. People may not say right words, right thing about individuals, but people have the right to know opinion on them. It's positive and negative, and what it needs to be to
We didn't get her name or address.
Karen Kish.
Mhm.
It
What was your name and
it
address?
was Crestwood Drive, you said? Karen Kish, Crestwood Drive.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Just in case you have any questions, I just want to make sure. you're comfortable on the meeting.
So with the text, we talking about parking spaces. So the second revised was just 26.5.5. One or two space. For each three vendors.
Yeah, so the applicant had proposed our current regulation in section 26.5.5 parking spaces states one space for each 3 beds for patients located in the same lot. The building just 3 for additional spaces for staff. And one of the things that we had talked about was whether or not we felt that was enough and whether or not we thought it should be increased. It wouldn't just be for this location, it would be for all future locations. My recommendation was to perhaps go up to 2 spaces for each 3 beds and 5 for additional spaces for staff. And I guess we would ask the applicant if this agreeable.
So 2 comments with regard to that, and giving this some thought. I guess, first of all, we don't see ourselves as different from those other uses that have the same content scale. In fact, we'll probably require fewer spaces because we don't have any inpatient. But to the extent that there is a concern that we're going to be over, and by the way, staff people can come via train, they can come via bus, they can, so which is, my guess is how staff travels to some of the other facilities that fall under that category. But, I suggested 2, our proposal is 1, we thought that, 1.5 for 3 beds would be appropriate, or half the space for 3 beds. So, and anyway, that was our proposal, is that we simply split the difference of 1.5 parking spaces per 3 beds plus the 5 extra, and we'd be happy.
Or 1.5 and.
So switch the 2. Yeah, so that would be.
We're talking beds, but with staff.
Right, so assuming, I think your standard, I mean, again, this applies to hospitals as well, so
Yeah.
most of these people are not driving themselves, and certainly not in our case. So beds is simply a analog, or way to analyze how many staff people live in front of them. So currently, your regulations for hospitals and less than home sanitarium is 1 space for 3 beds. Ed suggested 2 spaces for 3 beds. You're simply suggesting split difference of 1.5 spaces.
And if you don't mind, I just want to add, Maple Street and Water Street has street parking, as you know, right in front of our building on both streets. There's an abundance of parking there as well, which obviously doesn't factor into this.
which I understand, but the regulation states located on the same lot. So that's why you were referring, the reason why I came up with my number is because you had stated previously in commission meetings, roughly 60 some odd employees, and we asked, not just this one, but other ones, I think, how many people might be there at one time. And Jim Stewart and I talked about that. And I think you said possibly 25 to 30. So based on that, I said, well, if you were looking at that, to go to 2 spaces for each 3 beds would be approximately 30 spaces plus 5. That would give you ample enough space. Based on the chart even that you provided to us on your site plan, you still have the ample rooms for that in your facility.
Yeah, I think the idea is that there's still an undeveloped portion of the pad site that's proposed for a restaurant, and we want to just have some flexibility with that as well.
Well, and you did show those numbers in your parking standard, and this just isn't being done for you. This is being done for any future treatment. You know, whether it's this type of treatment or any type, it's any future convalescent, you know, and it's our chance to upgrade, and it's up to you guys to make that decision what you think it should be.
So, Mr. Carter, if I could just add that I appreciate your comments, and we do believe we complied with the lower standard of 1. We're willing to go to 1.5 for 3 beds. We think that's a reasonable accommodation, but beyond that, I think would put us at risk for the final development of that pad. We have a lot of variations going on right now, and that additional flexibility in parking from the 1.5 to 2 per 3 makes me a whole lot more comfortable that we can get a viable player into that pad site. So I'm hoping that you'd be willing to split the difference. Again, I think we comply on the existing regulation of 1. We're willing to make an accommodation in good faith to go to 1.5 per 3 beds. But I think beyond that puts us in a more difficult position relative to the development of the others.
So with that number, we're probably looking at about 27.
I think 28. I believe if my math in my head is correct. I think you do 1.5 times, we have 46 beds.
So, yeah. So it'll be 16, 8, 24 in addition to
20, 23 and 5, is it?
Yeah.
Is what I'm thinking.
So that will get you up to the 20.
Okay.
That's your decision. I
What's your
think it would work.
recommendation? So,
Yeah.
In the parking lot, there's 174. But we on their site plan, which was given to you, it showed how many were given for the eye doctor use, how many were given for the urgent care use, how many were planned out for the potential pad site use. So we looked at all that. So based on their original number of 19, there's still 20 sites left. So we'd be using 8 more of those sites. So the number does work. It still meets probably what they have for the potential. And again, that was the talk that, do we have enough room that if they had 25 workers at one time? Understanding some may carpool, some may, take the train in, some may take the bus in. And yes, there is parking on that area in the streets, but we allow a lot of people to use.
And this one is based off of the 1 row? 3 beds?
Well, it falls out for 19 in one spot. So the new,
Okay. 153 plus 5 additional, I'm sorry, plus 3 additional.
Right. That was the original proposal.
that was the initial proposal. So yes.
That's what I was saying. The original
was based on that down to the 19.
If I do 19, and
We're going to add even more. We'd be changing the rate.
5 plus two additional steps. Plus two.
Fine.
Yeah, interesting, but it already says plus three additional, so we're taking it to plus three to plus five.
So it's a total of 8.
That's.
We'll go 19 to 27.
That's the 8 and 9.
Or we do it 1.5?
Yes.
We'll take it.
So you just put that in.
That, I mean.
And perhaps that's a good reason,
Well,
a good segue to let you know that we vote on the regulation amendment this evening, we're happy to give you an extension on the special permit.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're gonna close the public hearing, the 6:05. Applicant for the proposed text change to add residential treatment facilities as a permitted use to a B1 zone, add a definition of residential treatment facilities, and add a parking standard for residential treatment facilities applicant, Heritage Downtown LLC. Wait a second. All in favor? Close. Does anyone have any discussion about the text change? All right. Then I'll accept the motion. I'll accept the motion to approve the text change request to add a residential treatment facility use to section 23 Schedule A land use Part B, community facilities, services and services in a B1 zone with a special permit process. Add the following text to section 4 definitions. A facility providing a residential service licensed by the State Department of Health for the cure or treatment of substance abuse or dependent persons pursuant to section 19A-495-570 of the regulations of Connecticut State Agency and or an intermediate treatment facility pursuant to section 19A-495-550 of the Connecticut State Agency, and revising section 26.5.5 parking spaces to the following: hospital, convalescent home, sanitarium, residential treatment center, 1.5 space for each 3 beds for patients and located on the same lot with the building plus 5 additional spaces for staff. Applicant Downtown, Heritage Downtown LLC. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Do we, okay, there's just a bit, there's a lot of keeping. So there's been a negative referral from the planning commission, just to make everyone aware of that. So it does require a majority to pass pursuant to your regulation, okay? You've heard that there's an extension on the special permit, so that that public hearing will be open, and there's an issue that we want to address.
Yeah, there was potential that you, as the commission, may want to refer the special permit application back to planning them, since they may not have given a referral or not. Their concern was that there was no regulation that they wanted. That was their comment, I believe.
The comment was that they wanted to be able to vote on that based on a regulation, so they denied the application referral to them they denied the application referral to them without prejudice, that it would go back to them for their full review of the application, the special permit application, not the text change.
In other words, there's some ambiguity there, that would definitely be within your discretion if you wanted to refer that special, just the special permit back to the planning commission for a finding on compliance with POC. And another couple just bits of real quick housekeeping. You've heard the legal standard as far as the law regarding ADA as well as FHA, Americans with Disabilities Act, Fair Housing Act. Fair Housing Act ensures a fair opportunity at housing, the same opportunity at housing as everyone else, regardless of disability. And you've heard from Attorney Nutt regarding how the regulations can be violative of the Americans with Disabilities Act, whether on their face or as applied in the case of a disparate impact. There's also a request for a reasonable accommodation that also does come into play. You've heard the standard essentially must cause an undue administrative or financial burden should you decide to deny the reasonable accommodation. And essentially what that is, I'm glad that Commissioner Portis said what he said, because I think that's really the perfect context, which is, there would have to be something heard from Attorney Nutt, how residential uses are allowed. That medical uses are allowed. This is obviously a combination of the two. The commission is not regulating people. Okay, the commission is regulating uses. So I don't know what the opinion of the commission is. We'll hear that in a minute. But what I just want to caution the commission on is that if the commission is so inclined to deny the text amendment, that there would have to be evidence on the record as to why there is that undue administrative burden. And the reason why I raised the comment from Commissioner Portis is because I think you hit the nail on the head, which is what is it specific about the combination of these two uses that offends the POCD or the comprehensive plan, or the comprehensive plan? What specifically is it? And we're not regulating people. So the reason cannot be, and I'm sure the commission, if I may speak for the commission for a second, I'm sure it doesn't share those same sentiments. That, we've heard a lot of comments about those people and locked up and security concerns. We don't consider those things when we're talking about an orthopedic doctor. We don't consider those things when we're talking about a hairdresser. So if the commission is so inclined to go against this text amendment proposal, I would just caution the commission that we should have some discussion, some deliberation, careful, specific deliberation about what it is about the combination of these uses, which is inconsistent. We've heard a lot of testimony about, well, just look at, live, play, whatever, we need specifics on the record. Okay, that's fine for the public. They're entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to what they want to say on the record. But from this commission, we really need specifics. What is it about that combination of uses that just is not consistent with the community interest, with the comprehensive plan, with the plan of development? Yeah, thank you.
Commissioners, Francis, do you have any questions? You? None? Okay. All right, here we go. So,
There's a motion in a second.
motions on the table.
Right, they just have to vote.
Do I,
That's all.
so moved. Francis seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
And, yeah, you can, just do a quick motion to approve the plan.
Well, that's at the discretion of the parent. I mean, there's no.
You don't have to. You want to sell things? All right.
And they did without prejudice, so second chance after.
Just the special permit.
Just the special, well, that was only, yeah, just the special.
And that's all, and that's all we're talking about.
Right.
So now they have a regulation in place.
I think it's noted that.
Right.
But it's a special permit. Not the-
Right.
the-
Yeah, just take a vote.
Okay. Right, yeah, well, the text change is now the vote. That's the special permit.
Whether
That
it's
they
going to be
did not-
referred back to the planning commission for finding of the unjust. offense.
Yeah, okay, because they already made the list.
Yeah.
Judgment commission, send it back
I'm
for
sorry.
clarity.
Because they're negative referral is.
Because the negative referral is by regulation.
Right.
Because
However,
they didn't make a.
You have them
They
leave.
did not make a referral on the text, on the special permit.
because there's enough ambiguity in the actual finding, and because it was stated specifically without prejudice, I think it's within, my legal opinion, it's within the commission's discretion if it did want to make the referral. It does not have to.
What do you guys want to do?
You
want to send it?
I would prefer that.
All right.
Send it back to planning.
Okay, so we'll send it back. So do I have to make another motion?
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to, we'll just make a motion.
To refer a special permit
For,
to the planning commission for a finding of compliance with planning.
Yeah, you could, if you want to make it easy, just read the special permit application. And B, just A with protection. Okay.
So I'll accept the motion to defer to refer the special permit application for a residential treatment facility within the existing building for the property located at 58 Maple Street, applicant Heritage Downtown LLC, to be submitted to the planning commission.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
he's like this.
We're gonna take a bio break. 2-minute break.
Okay. Hold on, we gotta,
Public hearing. 625 special permit application for proposed single-story 29,200 square foot retail building and required excavation for the property located at 912 New Haven Road, applicant 589 Investments LLC. The public hearing opens 6/19/24, must close by 7/23/24 unless an extension is requested by the applicant.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Chris Pawlowski. I'm a licensed civil engineer in Civil One. Here representing the applicant. We would talk about 912 New Haven Road. The parcel is located in New Haven Road Design District, and I just want to give a little background about how we got here. So the property was purchased, part of it, from the borough. The front portion is intended to be developed. The rear portion is owned by the borough, and I believe it's open space at this time. It was combined with a couple of other parcels. And now we have the application before you, which is 29,200 square foot retail facility. We've been before wetlands. We received a positive referral from planning. We received approval from police, fire, and WPCA. So now we are before you. Let me just get the presentation on the screen here in just a second.
Permission to share screen.
Oh, we didn't.
wait, hold on, sorry.
Thank you.
Public. Okay.
Thank you, Sean. I'm assisted by Sean Quinlan, also a civil one here. So again, 912 New Haven Road, we're here for a special permit application before you all. We are proposing a 29,200 square foot retail building. Slide. This is the vicinity map of our site. So to the left side of the screen out of the picture is Route 8, a few minutes off of Route 8 there on New Haven Road. The green represents our site. And again, that back portion of the site is owned by the Borough of Naugatuck. Our client owns the front along with a couple of other pieces that was merged into the commercial use before. So this is that map before the land was purchased from the borough. So again, this is what it looked like before. Go over slide ahead. This is what it currently looks like. And again, New Haven Road runs along the front of the property. So we're here to talk about 29,200 square foot retail facility. The parcel is approximately 7.7 acres in size. It's in the New Haven Road Design District. The parcel is partially cleared. It's comprised mostly of ledge rock, which we'll get to in a second. The lot coverage, building coverage, height are all within standards. We meet all the setbacks. The building is an L-shaped building, approximately 80 feet deep for each of the storefronts. It's 265 foot wide. And 180 foot on the shorter section of the depth. There's 191 parking spaces that are proposed. This works out to about 1 per 153 square feet of retail. That is the parking requirement is determined as part of this submission during this process. So I just like to point that out. Again, we are proposing 191 spaces, which is 1 per 153 square feet of retail. Other towns in the area and cities, they're at about 1 per 200 square foot of retail, so we have more than ample parking proposed as part of this proposal. That'll help us in the future, depending on the uses that will want to come here that may need more parking. We want to make sure we have some flexibility. We're providing a 30-foot front entrance drive as you come in from New Haven Road. There is a sidewalk all along the frontage being proposed. We do have significant landscape plantings along the front and sides and throughout the parking lot. There are a number of shrubs, trees, and screen planting provided. We have a loading zone in the rear of the building, as well as a dumpster enclosure and dumpster pads. Page. So the site is currently a large rock hill or ledge mountain, if you will. In order to properly develop this project and attract potential retail or restaurant or other future uses, a lot of these commercial uses want to be seen and need to be seen from the road. So as part of our project, we need to lower the grade significantly on site. There is about 100 to 110 foot elevation change from New Haven Road to the back of the property. So as you enter on the site, the grade is going to climb. The building will be the high point of the parking area. The drainage will pitch away from the building. It's collected by a series of catch basins and routed to a stormwater basin shown in the front of the parcel with 7 and 4 bays. It's all been designed in accordance with the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. The plans have been reviewed by town staff and borough staff, and thank you for your comments. We also did provide a response to those comments and revise our plans accordingly. There is a significant rock ledge in the back of the property. There's about a 15-foot shoulder at the bottom of the proposed rock ledge, and then there is a 50-foot buffer on top of the rock ledge to the property line, and that is to remain in natural wooded condition. There is a 5-foot fall protection fence being proposed on top of that, just for safety reasons. And again, all the stormwater drains to the front of the site. It's collected and treated by the stormwater quality basin, and then there is an overflow outlet which connects to the state drainage system in the side of the roadway adjacent to our site. So the earthwork operation for the site will take place in 3 phases. I do have our geotechnical engineer here who, after I'm done speaking, will come up and say a few words. Then followed by him, I will also have our traffic engineer say a few words as well. This is the first phase of the site, and this phase 1. Earthwork equipment will need to enter the site through the drive you see along the screen there. Pointer. So we're to come into the site here, we're gonna construct the temporary access road. The processing equipment, such as the rock crushers and screeners, will be located in the center of the screen there. The first step will be to essentially box in an area where we set up this equipment and begin the earthwork process. Slide, please. From there, the earthwork operation will expand outward. So this is now phase 2. You see the driveway, temporary access drive is still in the same location. Now we're just expanding outward, slowly lowering that elevation as we move towards final grade. And then for the third phase, we expand to the full limit of development. So this is the rock face along the back and the side of the property. Again, I note that 50-foot natural buffer, which is to remain to the property line. And then we have, of course, all of these, throughout all 3 phases, we have the soil erosion and sediment control items. We have temporary sediment traps, silt fence, anti-tracking pad construction entrances, and things of that nature. There's sufficient dust control measures being put in place for the project. So there's sprinklers, we have water bars and things of that nature, which help with dust control throughout the earthwork operations. For the project, we are proposing to remove 485,000 cubic yards of rock. This mountain is about 100 feet or 110 feet from the road to the back, so it is necessary in order to construct the belt. And again, it will take place in over 3 phases, approximately 4 to 5 years to complete the rock removal.
So with phase 1, how long do you think phase 1 can take?
So just to get the temporary access road constructed and kind of set up the equipment, I wouldn't say that's more than a year or so. Just to kind of give enough room to work and have our client actually speak on the precise timeline, but it's going to vary. Just a ballpark is a year, just to get the access road set up and get all the equipment.
And then phase 2 would be
Another 2 to 3 years, and then from there, another probably 2 years, so 1, 2, and 2, if you will. But again, those are subject to fluctuation, depending on how fast we can get the rock out. So, and our client is eager to get started on this project as soon as possible. So,
I just hope there isn't.
yes.
When the project's completely done. Sorry.
Okay.
When the project's, and you may have said this and I apologize, I didn't catch it. When the project's completely done, how high is it from the parking area where people are driving to that cliff?
So, if you go back, you're very much on that. So we're gonna come in off the road, there's about a 6 to 8 foot grade change as you come up. And then in the back of the parking lot, there's a 15-foot area, and then the rock face varies, so it's shorter on the sides here. But at its highest point, I believe it's between 80 and 90 feet, that rear rock face, which is why we have the full protection at the top and the 15-foot buffer, if you will, at the bottom, between the edge of the park.
And then,
So, quite a little.
and you're gonna have like some sort of, I forgot what it's called, but netting in case of falling rocks or anything else.
So, at the end of our presentation, I'm gonna have our geotechnical engineer talk a little bit about those things. So, thank you.
And then 2 other questions real quick. You talked about rock crushing. What's the plan of hours of operation for this facility, especially when you are not, a lot of pieces of equipment, people living in that area? What's the sound level going to be like, and then what's the hours of operation for this?
Totally understand. So the first thing I want to state is that there will be no earthwork operations on Saturdays, Sundays, or any holidays as designated by the borough. Additionally, I believe our hours of operation are 7 to 5 or 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
They are called out in section 42 of our regs.
Correct. We will abide by whatever the required timeframes are for hours of operation. We're not asking for anything extraordinary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question. The borough's property, the borough property is behind there.
That is correct.
So how do they access the back of the property?
If you flip back to the survey.
One.
Apologize, I don't know the name of the street, but if you see this access strip here, there is an access to another street.
That was Warren Avenue.
Warren-
Very end
Thank
of
you
Warren
very much.
Avenue
Thank you.
has a connection to the parcel.
So there's
Prior.
correct, ample access. To the rear of the parcel. Finish up with the lighting plan and then the truck turning movements. So all of the lights proposed as part of the development are LED dark sky compliant. means there's no up glare or up lighting that would be seen from if you were in an airplane per se. Additionally, all the lighting is contained on site. If you look at the limit of these foot candles here, there's no light emitted beyond the property borders. It all is contained within the development. We did design the site to accommodate not only the fire truck turning movements throughout the site, but also an SU-40 bus. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions, any commissioners.
What are you doing with the site? Because that's sort of, that place,
Yeah, so I believe we did some sightline analysis, and we would have more than adequate we will have more than adequate site distances when the project is developed. And our traffic engineer, we have to talk a little bit more about that.
does it need a light?
No, there's no traffic light proposed as part of this development.
That road there, we always think of the right or left hand turn. It's very hard to get on.
Right, so any restriping or lane creation, as this is a state road, will be reviewed by Connecticut DOT. And we will have to comply with their rules and regulations, so if they are going to require a turning lane. we will provide a turning lane. But at this time, there is no traffic lighting. That's part of this. And we will also have to pursue an encroachment permit with Connecticut DOT before we can access the site as well.
The driveway is going up the middle of the property.
That is correct.
You just got it going.
Just a temporary one, that's correct, just to access.
So just, Chris, you haven't seen this. I did give this to Sean. Jim Stewart and myself met yesterday. We went over a list of conditions to be met. Some of them are dealing with the excavation. Some are dealing with the state of Connecticut for their encroachment permits. They'll need one for excavation. They'll need one for ultimately at the end. As we know, state roads, state of Connecticut generally does not get involved until after we get gone through our approval process. So we did build a lot of that into our conditions, and then some of that stuff will all have to be met before any, obviously the excavation conditions will have to be met first with the state for their encroachment, and then they have several years to work on the encroachment for the final entrance working with the state. So you can read this maybe while the traffic guy talks. So these were the conditions that we came up with.
Thank you. Yeah, I just briefly scanned through them and most seem pretty standard. Like the stormwater construction permit in the state, anytime you just over 5 acres, you need one of those. We're serving over 5 acres, the plan just came one of them. And it's the encroachment permit. We're happy to use construction meeting. We're happy to comply.
Yeah, we have pre-construction prior to excavation, and then a meeting when you start actual construction of the bridge.
Absolutely, we're happy to.
And just, you have your rock guy here. All blasting is handled through the fire marshal's office. And we have a condition in regard to the mention.
Thank you. All right, there's no other questions. I'd just like to have our geotechnical engineer and our traffic engineer speak for a few minutes.
Actually, I have one question. Many times we've had excavation permits come before us with proposed buildings. And there's a difference. Sometimes companies specialize in excavation and they don't necessarily build that many buildings. Can your applicant inform us how many buildings he might have built in the, with this type of things, or are they a person that sells the parcel afterwards?
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Mark Oskowski. I'm from Oxford, 29-1 Highland Road. We're a company called Earthworks. We've been in business for 42 years. Son's now taking over the business with myself. We have been, Earthworks does all the site work, and we have a company called 589 Investments that does all the real estate. And in the last, 20 years, I'll mention some of the projects that we've worked on, all right? We'll start off with the rock piles, all right? Beacon Falls, Alliance Circle. I put in Magna Steel, United Rental, that was 300,000 yards of wood. Patriot Way in Oxford, I put in steel power equipment, 150,000 square feet, all rock. Fox Hollow Road in Oxford, a 10-lot industrial subdivision, 40% of it's rock. E-commerce Drive, Oxford, another subdivision, we did put the road in. Kestrel, apartment building in Seymour, we just finished in Seymour. Pheasant Run Road, we just put in KTI Communications,
RCD bearings going in there, grid building, and, and as far as the site work goes, we've got about 30 guys. And, as a recent project we just finished up, we probably saw in the paper this week, we just finished up, joint venture with, Montana Construction, we did the water park and water drains, and then we just Hamilton Park. So we don't intend on just making a mess and leaving it. We put it in here, we put a building, that's our goal, is to put a building. We don't want to stretch it out any longer than we have to, we want to get in, we want to get.
So the 589 investments in LLC, whatever it is, that's your division that you also bid for. Just don't go in there. Just wanted to make sure.
Do you have any, I understand it's 5 years out and the answer's probably no, but I'm just curious, do you have any?
Exactly what you said. It's gotta develop, people gotta see it, and that's what, a piece of property like this, people can't see it.
Yeah, agreed. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
At this time, I'd like to welcome up, to talk about the geotechnical engineering of the project. Thank you.
For the record, name is Raymond Gennaro, principal engineer at Down Earth Consulting. Our office is 27 City Company Drive in Watertown. Licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. So we were retained by the applicant as had mentioned, the rock. It's going to be excavated from the site, and preliminarily, we put a letter together, basically recommendations and how the rock material is going to be removed in an effective and safe way. And our excavation recommendations letter was submitted for the records, stated March 15th. It's been a long night. I'm not going to go through it in much detail, but I'm just going to stress on some of the quality control measures that we're going to recommend and make sure that are enacted on this site. Basically, a lot of these measures go above and beyond the requirements of a blasting permit, as I mentioned, which will be under the fire marshal. So first and foremost, we're going to retain a qualified blasting subcontractor. That subcontractor is going to be required in accordance with the blasting permit requirements to put together a blasting plan. We will review this plan, we'll provide commentary. That plan will be submitted to the fire marshal for the application of the blasting permit. One of the commissioners had a question regarding the timeline as to when the blasting activities would occur. That would be under the requirements of the blasting permit. They would specify that. So again, two different animals, blasting and rock excavation. Blasting operations, those activities will fall under the purview of the fire marshal, and they would specify the days and the times in which that can occur. So before mobilizing any equipment to the site, we're going to make sure that pre-construction surveys are completed for neighboring parcels. We're recommending within 500 feet of disturbance limits in the parcel. So basically, any structure, any parcel that falls within that 500-foot radius, we will offer pre-construction survey of the residents that will be provided by the applicant. They have their right to waive that. But again, one of the ways that we make sure that not only are we aware of what structures are nearby, make sure we document their condition prior to any earthwork activity on the site. And then one of the important things that typically is not done, which we will recommend ensure that the blasting subcontractor completes the test blast. And that's going to be done at a remote portion of the site. The purpose of the test blast is basically so the blasting subcontractor can prove their techniques, their means and methods that they describe in their blasting plan. But then we also take the opportunity to set up some seismographs, and typically like a 50, 100 foot distance from this test blast, and we collect some vibration data, and we use that to collaborate with the design team and use that information to identify, okay, which potential structures, by parcels, do we especially need to watch out for during construction. And then also, if we determine based on the results of the seismographs, the contractor may need to modify the means and methods, right, to minimize the risks associated with impacts residents. And then once the test blast is done, once the data is reviewed, then production blasting would occur. During phase 1 and phase 2, it could be more of a production blasting as we approach the final rock face. And again, as Chris mentioned, we have some higher cuts, 80, 90, I think 92, correct me if I'm wrong, is the highest cut. And so what we do, the commissioner had a question as well regarding what protections are going to be in. Is that there, as Chris mentioned, there will be a 15-foot minimum wide rock catchment area at the toe of the slope. You may see, and I've had some communications with the design team, we may need a little more than that. But you can see on the site plan there, that'd be the north and east. There's actually a distance greater than 15 feet, right? So one of the things we'll need to do before any of this occurs is actually do some explorations out there, get a better handle as to the orientation of the rocks, and see, essentially design these rock slopes, right? With orientation of the slopes. I mentioned the rock catchment area. How wide do we need to go? What's the orientation of that rock catchment area? Typically, they are graded at a back slope, so any material that falls off the rock face is contained within that rock catchment area. Rock weathers, that's how we get soil, right? So weathering of this rock base will occur over time, long after I'm no longer around on this earth. So rock catchment area, what we'll recommend and what we'll design is going to capture fallen rock and ensure occupancy on this parcel. One of the commissioners had a question regarding energy dissipation barriers. That is a tool that we have in our toolbox. It has a specific purpose, and I typically don't recommend, if in areas where we have the space, I prefer a rock catchment area, a passive catchment. The problem with energy dissipation barriers is that once material has fallen and once the barriers have been engaged, they become a maintenance headache. And if, like many things, right, if they're not maintained appropriately, it creates an even greater safety issue down the road. It's for a lot of reasons why you don't see DOT using them, because they are a pain to maintain. So for this particular site, and again, I've had some correspondence with the design team. We have enough real estate, if you will, to design a sufficient rock catchment area to ensure, again, any fallen material that comes in is retained within that rock catchment ditch. And then so during construction, the only thing I'll add, the blasting subcontractor will be required to do their own vibration and overpressure monitoring. We will recommend to the applicant will retain their own third party testing lab to perform those services. Because again, we want to make sure we monitor the blasting as it occurs to, again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the rock is excavated in accordance with prevailing standards of care and satisfying all applicable safety standards. As the applicant mentioned, a lot of experience with rock removal, and feel pretty comfortable with what we're seeing here. The real estate that we have in order to do a final design of the rock slope orientation itself, also the rock catchment area, and again, pretty comfortable with the rock excavation process as a whole. So I hit on the hours of operation, the rock catchment area, but any other questions? I'm happy to do anything.
Just a couple, as the blasting occurs, the crushing occurs, is that material removed immediately, or is there going to be? Like, what's it, like, is there gonna be a nighttime thing, or, you know, like, how, I know the hours of work time is 8 to 5, I'm assuming the trucks stop running after that, or how does that all, that piece of it?
I'd have to leave that to the applicant, to answer that question. So just based on what I'm saying, it looks like we're gonna be processing material on site. Again, that will occur in accordance with the special permit review. But again, I can only speak to the blasting application, and that can only take place in accordance with the fire marshal. But
And then the other question I had was with regards to water sources in the area. I don't know if it wells in that area, if people are all the city water, but is, you know, the water testing going to be occurring during after?
that we take a look at during these pre-construction surveys. That's part of that process, right? So we ask ourselves that same question within that area of influence, 500 feet, 100-foot radius, whether or not there are any public wells, whether everyone's on city water, borough water. So that's all part of the process as well. And then, you know, during design, you know, as well, we will take a look at, you know, where the location of the groundwater table, other design parameters that will be required to go along with our actual analysis. And it's a great question. A lot of times that gets overlooked as well, but that will get included with the construction survey structure.
Question,
Yeah.
the highest part of the wall, who fences that or does, because it's gonna be borough property that's way high up high. Do you fence it? Do you put shrubs? Or what's the protection?
So I'll let Chris speak to that, but again, that fence, that is usually put up is not only for protection of people, but also animals as well. Because a lot of times we do see that, you know, unfortunately, without some type of barrier in place, there is unfortunately likelihood of not only rocks falling off the top of that slope.
No, absolutely. And again, Chris Plowski for the record. And also I'd like that's a 5-foot high chain link fence. And I believe it might have been a comment from the borough engineer, but that fence will be installed first thing. So it won't be at the end of the project while we're blasting. First thing we'll out there is mark out that where that fence location is, have been installed. Again, it's 5-foot high chain link, so there shouldn't be any animals or people going past it. Thank you.
AJ, just to make reference to your questions about timing, section 42.2.4.7, no earth excavation, fill, or grading activities shall take place after 5 p.m. or before 8 a.m. Monday through Saturday. Hours for processing earth materials shall be between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and no such activities allowed on holidays. So it's the rock crushing is Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And then there are further in another section, which says about the 300-foot barrier of where it can be on the property. And that's why they're called out where it should be.
You get this, and I'm sorry, I missed it. I was trying to write down the section numbers and I didn't quite hear you.
Yeah, 42.2.4.7. Section 42 is all about excavation and fill.
And then there's a section that you're talking about where there's certain types of activities that can occur on Saturdays.
It does say, well, this fiscal year fill drainage shall take place after 5 p.m. or before 8 a.m. So earth excavation, fill, or grading activities shall take place after 5 p.m. or before 8 a.m. Monday through Saturday. So
those
they
activities can occur on Saturday.
can't do rock crushing on Saturdays, but they can do regular business or regular excavation activity on Saturday.
So they can have just as much monitoring, it won't be quite as loud because you're not crushing rock, but you're still gonna have a tremendous amount of construction on Saturdays.
Right. It would
You
be,
mentioned that you don't plan on working Saturdays.
Correct. So if I may, the only thing that we'll be doing on Saturdays is maintenance. So we have to go in there and change the oil on the loaders or make sure the screeners have a broken part, we fix it. But we're not gonna be doing any rock crushing or anything of that
No
nature.
excavating or grading or anything like that. So-
No.
If there's an emergency, you know, probably there to go home,
Yeah, unless there's an emergency, yes, David.
we also anticipated there was no selling from the site.
So I'm not trying to do the second of that, so that means no, scale house, no retail sales from the site.
That's what you had said at the planning commission.
That,
Not in business.
Right.
that's correct. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Thank you for your time.
I will say this for record, they did turn in the green cards for the public noticing that was sent out. I did have, I think it was 2 to 3 different residents who came in and viewed the site plans. Since they sent out, you know, they told me when the meeting is going to be and whatnot. And if you wanted to notice, and we did come up with a list of conditions for the project.
Originally, I would just like to have our traffic engineer say a few words. That's okay with everybody. It'll be a pretty good promise. Steve. Just quickly, thank you.
There's one here.
Steve, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just, am I able to share my screen or?
Yes, you are.
Go ahead.
We just have to have a
Okay, thank you.
takeoff use.
You have to take that yours. But
Oh, CIP. Oh,
Okay, are you able to see my screen?
yes,
yes.
Okay, great. Good evening. For the record, Steve Cipolla, Senior Traffic Engineer with Hardesty Hanover, licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. We conducted the traffic study for the proposed commercial development at 912 New Haven Road. Everything that I'm going to show in the presentation is from our traffic study. So this is figure 1 from the study. Just for some orientation, we have State Route 63 New Haven Road. We selected 4 study area intersections, Cross Street and the signal at Cross Point Plaza. These 2 traffic signals work on the same controller. And then the third is the signal lights intersection with Osborne Road. And the 4th is the signal at the Walmart and Brook Valley Estates. We conducted our traffic counts at these 4 intersections on Thursday, September 28th and Saturday, September 30th, 2023. The weekday counts were done from 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m., the commuter peaks, and then on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The peak hours were identified to be 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. during the week, and on Saturday from 12:45 to 1:45. The counts indicated that New Haven Road carries approximately 1,200 vehicles during the morning, 1,800 vehicles during the afternoon weekday, and approximately 1,950 vehicles on a Saturday midday condition. Based on our discussions with Connecticut DOT, they did have anticipated improvements to all 4 of these traffic signals. More specifically, the 2 signals here that work on the same controller. They're proposing some timing and phasing changes. and the two intersections, Osborne and the Walmart signal, the improvements include, improvements to the pedestrian hardware at these two locations. These anticipated improvements were included in our future analyses. The next step, we took the existing traffic volumes and applied an annual growth rate of 1% based on our discussions with Connecticut DOT Planning Division. We reached out to both the Connecticut DOT Planning as well as the town planner, and no other developments were identified. Let me go to the next page. So then our next step was to estimate site traffic for the proposed development. We used the latest Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Handbook, which is a handbook that has trip rates for many different types of land uses. Specifically for this one, we used the strip retail plaza of less than 40,000 square feet. In addition, Connecticut DOT allows for a 20% pass-by credit, which is a reduction in the traffic due to patrons who might be visiting the proposed site, who are already on New Haven Road, passing the site, that will divert off to the site and then re-enter. The total trips were 69 in the morning and 192 in the afternoon and Saturday. That's straight from ITE. Of those trips, 14 are considered pass-by in the morning and 38 in the afternoon and Saturday. Therefore, the primary or new vehicle trips that are added to the roadway network is 55 in the morning, 154 in the afternoon, and 154 on Saturday. Next step is we reviewed existing travel patterns at the study area intersections, and we developed a anticipated site traffic distribution. We anticipate that 50% of the vehicles will come, I guess, from the west or northwest on New Haven Road. 30% will come from the east on New Haven Road. 15% will come from Cross Street, and then the remaining 5% will come from the neighborhood up on Osborne Road. We took the previously discussed site traffic numbers, and we assigned them using these distributions. Then the next step is we added to our no-build traffic volumes the site traffic volumes to get our build condition with the proposed development. This is table 4 from the traffic study. I know it's very small, so I'll try to zoom in a little bit if I can. So basically we did an analysis for our existing condition, our no build, and our build condition. And the last column is the most important column. That's indicating the impacts due to the project. So for the state route 63 New Haven Road at Cross Street and at the Cross Point Plaza, as well as the Walmart and Brook Valley Estates driveway, indicated minimal increase in delay and acceptable changes in level of service. The signal at Osborne also indicated minimal increase in delay during the morning and afternoon. On Saturday, it did indicate that the westbound did have a change in level of service from E to F. So as part of our recommendations, we looked at fine-tuning the traffic signal split or the green time And by doing that, we were able to get, with our development on Saturday, for it to operate similar to our no build condition. So we were able to mitigate any impacts from our proposed development with just some minor fine tuning of the signal timing. Then next, so for intersection site distance, we had a automatic traffic recorder, the little rubber tubes that you might see across the street, recorded the 85th percentile speeds, and we used those speeds to calculate the required intersection site distance based on Connecticut DOT standards. For intersection site distance to the left, 497 is required. Intersection site distance to the right, 464 feet is required. As shown on the plan prepared by Civil One, we're providing 630 feet in both directions, so more than sufficient sight lines are going to be provided. And then just going back to the driveway analysis, during the morning, the driveway will operate at a level service C. In the afternoon and on Saturday, it does operate at a level service F, which is consistent with most unsignalized intersections along the corridor due to the high volumes traveling on New Haven Road. We did look at the site traffic volumes to see if a traffic signal would meet the warrants necessary. Unfortunately, this development doesn't generate the level of traffic that's needed over an 8-hour period to meet the warrants that Connecticut DOT would require before they would consider the installation of a signal. However, we did look at the exit lane from our site, and typically DOT does not allow for a 2-lane exit. However, they do allow for us to provide a wide, unstriped 18-foot exit lane, which is wide enough to allow, if there's a vehicle waiting to make a left, a vehicle that wants to make a right can get by. Our analyses of the driveway was based on a worst case scenario, a single lane exit. And then also, as part of our recommendation along the site frontage, we're proposing a eastbound bypass lane, which most likely would be required by DOT when we go through the encroachment permit. The bypass lane, it requires a 20-foot wide from center line to edge of pavement. Existing out there is 20.5 feet, so it doesn't require any roadway widening because there are wide shoulders provided out there. But the bypass lane will provide for vehicles waiting to make a left turn into the site, would allow the eastbound traffic to be able to bypass those waiting cars waiting to make a left. If there's any questions.
Well, the only question I had was you mentioned that by making adjustments to the timing sequence, you can mitigate an impact that this facility would have on traffic patterns. Do you foresee any issues with that? You did mention that this was already planning on doing some tweaks on the lights there. Anyway, is there any expectation that your recommendations for those timing changes on those lights are going to be rejected or approved or anything like that? I mean, you feel pretty confident that that will actually be adjusted?
It typically all depends. When we go through the encroachment permit and we provide our recommendations, it's up to DOT to determine if it's implemented or not. I mean, it's not. We're not proposing like a change of a second or two. Typically, if it's a second or two, they don't consider going out and changing it. But it is 5 seconds, so it may be considered during the encroachment permit to implement that change to mitigate. per our
Would be considered, which means that they may not approve that.
Yeah, it is their signal, we're gonna provide our recommendation to them, to make the change. So that's what, will be per our discussions during the, encroachment permit, is the recommendation to make those timing changes.
As an expert in the field, just what is your experience in this type of thing? Has this been something you typically see them not having too much of an issue with, or have you had to deal with challenges with similar?
No, I haven't really had any challenges with DOT in that respect. Typically, they'll be very receptive of our recommendation to adjust timings if we show that it's needed, which we're showing in the report that it is needed to mitigate.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve. Is there any other questions at this time? And nothing further. Thank you all for your time.
Stop.
Do you have any questions for Michael?
No, sir.
Hold it up. And so it's 9:13. There you go. We're gonna close the public hearing at 9:13. Special permit application for proposed single-story 29,200 square foot retail building and required excavation within a property located at 112 applicant by the United Assessments LLC. Discussion you guys want before we? No, sir.
For conditions. I wanted to ask about if we can put the 5-foot fence, we can do it, if we can have any conditions, that would be at the start of. Just before.
It's on the site plan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we had them put a note on the site plan that it would be installed prior.
Okay, and copy of the blasting report and any issues with blasting, if Lynn, you could have a copy of that for the file.
We could ask that we get them from the fire marshal.
And also, because we don't know trucks coming in and out, we don't know how many trucks are gonna be coming in and out of the site. That's gonna affect traffic. Usually we know those things before. So that's a concern.
Well, that would be covered probably under the encroachment permit, the DOT, the excavation entrance. They would go over the traffic for that and whether or not it meets and what the guidelines are.
Well, typically we do that too, right, Jen?
Um,
The trucks coming in and out, we usually monitor what's coming in and out. Especially on the main road.
What's your concern?
How many trucks are gonna be coming in and out through the day? It could be a lot.
It's gonna be a lot.
Okay, so I think we should know. We're talking potentially 5 years of
Yeah.
this going on with
One of our proposed conditions is that they have to get a DOT encroachment permit for the excavation. So DOT is gonna make sure that their entrance and exit is not an issue for the state road.
for the road.
Absolutely.
So we don't need to worry about that.
I'm not worried about that portion, because DOT is they're on top of their game. They have people that do this. That's all they do.
Because we've
So-
had issues with that before, and that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a town road, I would agree with you
Okay.
completely.
All right.
In this case, you know, the state is on top of things and they're gonna run through the ram, no doubt.
Good enough. So it would just be, adding a
Copy of the
copy of the
last.
last. And issues. So that we have that in control.
I'll accept the motion to approve the special permit application for the proposed excavation to remove 485,000 cubic yards of earth material and the construction of a 29,200 square foot retail building and parking lot to set a bond in the amount of $134,722.50 for the soil and erosion control measures, topsoil, seeding and mulching of property, site grading and landscaping of property, and submitted in a form acceptable to the borough attorney for the property located at 912 New Haven Road, applicant 589 LLC, 589 Investments LLC, with the following conditions. One, the applicant, contractor, and engineer shall attend a pre-construction meeting with borough land use and staff prior to the start of any excavation or construction activities for the project. Two, an erosion permit shall be obtained from the Connecticut DOT for the excavation activity prior to the start of any excavation. An erosion, number three, an erosion permit shall be obtained from the Connecticut DOT prior to the commencement of site development activities. Number four, a final as-built plan must be submitted to the Naugatuck Land Use Office for review, acceptance, and closure of the construction process. Number five, the state of Connecticut DEP erosion control permit shall be obtained for the project prior to excavation construction activities. Six, the applicant shall provide a geotechnical report, including borings to finalize design, proposed rock slope prior to commencement of the project. Number seven, design and report shall be approved by the borough engineer. Number eight, state of Connecticut DEP construction stormwater general permit shall be obtained prior to the start of construction activities. Number nine, the applicant shall provide a semi-annual report regarding sediment erosion control protections and excavation activities, including topographic survey and excavation calculations and schedule of excavations. Number 10, applicant shall provide a plastic survey to the Naugatuck Fire Marshal's office prior to the start of excavation activities. And number 11, a copy of the plastic permit file at land use office. Any issues lost. Second. Gotcha. All in favor? I opposed. All set.
Okay, so the motion is discussion regarding special permit. I released them recently, with, they have Eversource there and Frontier there. This is in regard to the finishing of the landscaping along South Main Street and the sidewalk. It's gonna be quite a project to, eventually, they've got to move the guardrail back. And the three telephone poles that have to be relocated. One pole is Frontier, one pole is Eversource. Both of them, got to work with the Connecticut DOT again on where the guide wires can go to. So there was a lot of discussion on that. So I understand where it's going to take some time just listening to the Frontier people and the Eversource people on how that has to be. There are new guidelines from the state that the guardrail has to be now, I think they said 18 inches from the pole. Right now, the guardrail's up against the two poles. So there's gonna be some activity on that eventually, and I did go over the landscaping plan with them. The only thing that is not done is along that area there because it's going to be potentially changed up, so. I'll just say this, Eversource and the state and Frontier, they're slow on their processes, and just say that to move forward. So that's where I am now. I've asked if we can take that off the agenda. They're gonna keep me up on their emails in the future to let me know what they're doing in meeting and their time on that. Information. All right. And then on E, which is discussion about the soil erosion plan at 402 Hillside Avenue. Just this past week, there was an issue there with the wall. We have pictures before and after. They have been submitted to an attorney who's now working with me that is in helping me with the enforcement process of taking the property owner potentially to court.
He planted grass there, that's pretty, I mean.
He planted flowers, but he
I
has
know.
not, he seeded at one point, but then it was taken
No,
out.
but I mean, he looked like he went through with a weight, probably.
I think he did, but it didn't take.
Yeah.
It didn't take.
All I gotta do is put some.
And we're not even sure of the slope of there's some issues there that have got to be addressed, and that's what the attorney is addressing in the letter that he's writing, so that we'll take him to court on this. Because there were things we asked him to get us done. He had a cease and desist order. We asked him for stuff. We worked with him the best we can. He continued to do what he wanted. So Jim and I talked to the mayor about it, and that's where he brought in an attorney to now take it forward.
He did a lot in the last week.
Unfortunately, what he did didn't take.
Yeah, I know what he did, he made it look.
He made it look better, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure the fact that he added to the height of the wall is now legal. Because over 3 feet, I believe you need a building permit. And I don't know if he's over that amount now that the pictures were sent to the building inspector also. For the section that failed.
All right. Commissioner's comments, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
All right, then with that, I will accept the motion.
Too important you said it.
Can we adjourn? I'll accept the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Just a second.
Which is one of them.
AJ, Eileen and AJ.
Hi, everybody.
Holy cow.
Thank you, guys. I know this was a long one.